business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, "We saw you on television." I say, "Oh yes, on what?" "On GB News."
Hello, are you the famous Sue? The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again. You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gamble, and Reform UK's 2028 mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham. Right, well, coming up in my niggle. And do you feel that makes you far right?
Definitely not. Absolutely not far right. No. Absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with wanting to control your borders.
Exactly. Well, I joined members of the so-called far-right hardly at the rally that's taking place in London today. But what is the truth? So I found out for myself. You won't want to miss that in my niggle. And Labour leadership speculation is reaching fever pitch any moment now. We're expecting Wes Streeting to speak for the first time since resigning from the cabinet, whilst Andy Burnham prepares himself to fight a by-election that could hold the keys to number 10. Or not. It could be the keys that lock him out. We'll be bringing you the latest developments and in difficult conversations. Joining me, human rights activist Peter Tatchell, who spent today at the Palestine Solidarity Campaign March to mark the 78th anniversary of the Nakba. He will be explaining why later. And also, in the Great British Debate, Andy Burnham may be getting ready to be an ex-Prime Minister, but who actually voted for him and his left-wing agenda. Later in the show, we'll discuss where would Andy Burnham have a mandate to govern. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Nana. Good afternoon to you. 3:03, the top stories from the GB newsroom. 11 people have been arrested for a variety of offences as part of an unprecedented police operation to control competing protests in London. Protesters attended the Unite the Kingdom march organised by the activist Tommy Robinson. They gathered in Holborn before heading to Whitehall and then a rally in Parliament Square. Many could be seen waving union flags and heard chanting, "We want Starmer out." And more than 4,000 police officers have been deployed and given extra powers to deal with the gatherings. The separate pro-Palestinian march marking Nakba Day started in Kensington before heading to Waterloo Place via Piccadilly. Scotland Yard says it's using live facial recognition technology for the first time in a protest operation. The Justice Secretary David Lammy says authorities will act swiftly if the protests turn violent. Labour MPs have less than 48 hours to put themselves forward for selection in the Makersfield by-election. The seat became vacant when sitting MP Josh Simon stepped aside to allow Andy Burnham to contest it and potentially challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the Labour leadership. Labour's ruling body, the NEC, have given the Greater Manchester Mayor permission to stand in the by-election. It's understood that will take place in June. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is expected to announce an £18 billion boost to defence as he tries to fight back. Andy Burnham has told reporters today he'll fight to the highest level if he is successful in contesting and then winning the Makersfield by-election. Lebanon's health ministry says 6 people, including 3 paramedics, have been killed by an Israeli airstrike on a town in the south of the country. It comes hours after the US said the two countries had agreed to a 45-day extension to their ceasefire. However, Israel has continued to strike the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah throughout the fragile truce. Separately, Israel carried out strikes in the southern city of Tyre after issuing evacuation orders. Hezbollah says it's targeted Israeli barracks in the northern city of Kiryat Shimona with drones. Meanwhile, President Trump says the second-in-command of ISIS has been killed in a joint operation carried out by US and Nigerian forces in a region that borders Nigeria, Niger, and a number of other neighbouring countries. The US president described the mission as a meticulously planned one and praised Nigeria's government's role for its role in eliminating Abu Bilal al-Minuki, one of the world's most wanted terrorists. The charity's called for a wider rollout of meningitis vaccines after a teenager died in Oxfordshire this week after contracting the disease. Lewis Waters, a sixth form pupil at Henley College, died earlier this week. 2 pupils, one from Reading Bluecoat School and another from Highdown Secondary School in Reading, are being treated for meningitis. The Department of Health and Social Care say the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation is reviewing eligibility for routine vaccinations. In Scotland, the Celtic have come out on top in the winner-take-all game against Hearts. The SPFL title was up for grabs. Celtic have now made it 5 in a row. It was 1-1 at half-time. Hearts scored first, Lawrence Shanklin, but Celtic equalised with a penalty just before half-time. And then Celtic scored twice more towards the end of the game to make it 5 in a row and end Hearts' hopes of winning their first title since 1960. Meanwhile, Police Scotland say a 19-year-old man has been arrested and charged after referee John Beaton had his personal details leaked in the wake of a controversial penalty. The Scottish FA has released a statement. This was ahead of the game, saying attempts to compromise the safety of match officials, such vigilantism motivated by decisions perceived to be right or wrong on the field of play as a scourge on a national game. We're grateful to Police Scotland for their swift intervention. And the King says he was greatly shocked and saddened to have learnt of the death of a soldier at the Royal Windsor Horse Show, adding King Charles will be in touch with the family to share his personal condolences. The soldier was part of the King's troop, Royal Horse Artillery. He fell around 7 p.m. on Friday after exiting the arena. Now, we can bring you live to listen to the former Health Secretary Wes Streeting. He is speaking now, marking his first speech since resigning from the Cabinet. We'll take you there.
In Barnsley, in the headquarters of the National Union of Mine Workers, stands an enormous banner carrying their inspirational motto: "The past we inherit, the future we build." I mention it for two reasons. First, that banner conveys a message of hope and possibility, the future we build. Whatever the challenges that have come before, however difficult things might seem, the future is ours to build. It also speaks to a living inheritance we have in our movement of timeless values that speak to our shared belief in common endeavour and the power of collective action given expression by the Labour Party, created by and from the Labour movement because our founders recognised that it wasn't enough to march through the streets simply demanding change for ordinary people. We had to elect those people to walk through the corridors of power and deliver that change. Which brings me to the second reason for mentioning the NUM headquarters. The last time I visited, earlier this year, Barnsley had a Labour council led by one of the most outstanding leaders we have in Britain, Sir Steve Holton, who, would you believe it, served for 30 years as leader of Barnsley. Last week, Barnsley went reform, ending 50 years of Labour leadership. Barnsley went reform, despite the enormous and visible change our Labour Council was delivering in the town centre. Barnsley went reform, despite free bus travel for the under-18s, the fastest growth in the region, their best ever education results, and visitor numbers rivalling York. Barnsley went reform. 3 words that should strike fear into the hearts of every member of the Labour Party because of what it means for the future of England and the future of our United Kingdom unless we have the courage to face up to the challenge in front of us. Last week's election results were unprecedented, both in terms of the scale of the defeat and the consequences of that failure. For the first time in our country's history, nationalists are in power in every corner of the United Kingdom. Welsh Labour, not only out of power for the first time since devolution began, but consigned to a poor third place behind Plaid Cymru and Reform. The SNP, mired in the scandals of salmon and sturgeon, and with an abysmal record of failure, back in power in Scotland. And in England, more than 1,500 Labour councillors gone. The wipeout in some of our heartlands so bad that losses in just 4 Labour strongholds, Barnsley, Sunderland, Gateshead and Wakefield, made up more than 10% of our total losses. Scottish and Welsh nationalism represents an existential threat to the future integrity of our entire country. But the English nationalism, represented by Farage and Reform, is a threat to the values and ideals that have made this country great. Progressives across our country understand this threat and they want us to confront it, but they are increasingly losing faith that the Labour Party is capable of rising to the challenge, of defeating the politics of racism and nationalism, and of offering hope that Britain's best days lie ahead. Look at the by-elections in Caerphilly and Gorton and Denton, where the voters turned to Plaid and the Greens as the anti-reform choice. Or at our results here in London, where the Greens flipped Hackney, Lewisham and Waltham Forest to win majority control. I've been coming to Progress conferences for 20 years. We're the modernising wing of the party, the ones that know that principle without power is futile, but also that power without principle is barren. We're also a loyal tribe. So I know I have friends here who will not understand why I left the government this week. As I say at every election in Ilford North, you may not always agree with me, but you'll always know where I stand. So in that spirit, let me explain. The voters did more than send Labour a message last week. They issued a warning that unless we change course, Labour risk being the handmaidens of Nigel Farage and the breakup of the United Kingdom. And friends, when I stood on this platform for the first time 11 years ago as a newly elected and definitely more fresh-faced MP who'd bucked the trend to win Ilford North from the Tories, I also warned that never again must we allow a tyranny of silence in the name of party unity to send us on to avoidable defeat. Labour has been in existence for 126 years and in power for only 35. Our time in government is precious. We must not waste it. Change begins with an argument. You don't make progress without one. That's why this week I call for a battle of ideas, not personalities, because we haven't had a debate in the Labour Party about who and what we're for in more than a decade. Corbyn's leadership was marred by factionalism. The moral emergency of anti-Semitism in our party left little room for intellectual renewal or policy debate on the centre-left. We then had a dishonest leadership contest, followed by an over-cautiousness in opposition. Interesting policy ideas couldn't be floated because we were too afraid of what the Tories might say, so we said nothing. Instead of a willingness to challenge ideas and kick the tyres, debate was viewed as division and shut down. As a result, we arrived in government underprepared in too many areas and lacking clarity of vision and direction. Questions which had gone unanswered in opposition couldn't be ignored in office, leading to the early catastrophe of the winter fuel cut. We've carried this culture into government with a heavy-handed approach that has seen backbenchers scolded for interesting private members' bills, which weren't the government's policy, on things like banning smartphones in schools, as well as withdrawing the whip from a good Labour MP speaking up for his farmers, only for the government to later adopt his position. That's why we need a proper contest where all candidates can put their best foot forward. It's got to be a battle of ideas so that whoever wins comes out stronger for it. Because when Labour loses, the country loses. And the stakes are higher than ever. Because for the first time in Labour's history, our biggest opponents aren't the Conservatives, but Nigel Farage and Reform. If last week's results weren't bad enough, I ask you to cast your mind back 10 years, when we lost just one vote on one day to Farage. The result was the catastrophe of Brexit and the consequences that followed. One vote, one day. Imagine the consequences of losing a general election to that man. And unless we change course, that is where we are heading. So it is time for us to step up, to show that Labour is capable of delivering the change that people are crying out for, to show that politics can be a force for good, to show that Britain is still capable of doing big things, to unite our movement and defeat reform. That is our responsibility now. And what a day for us to have gathered. Today, as Rosie said, Tommy Robinson and his followers are marching through the streets of our capital city. The last time he did, ministers were sent out by Number 10 with a media script to explain the march rather than condemn it. What we've experienced in our country in recent months is a type of racism that we haven't seen on our streets since the 1970s and 1980s. Our country's flags, flown from lampposts and flyovers, not as a symbol of national pride, but as a symbol of division. A message that those flags belong to people who look like me and not people who look like our Deputy Prime Minister, our Home Secretary or our Mayor of London. We've seen mosques set on fire and vandalised, Muslim women harassed because of what they wear, diminishing our country and forgetting our history. That the fight for Britain's liberty was also a fight against fascism, waged by people from these islands alongside the largest volunteer army in the world, made up of Muslims, Hindus and Sikhs from India, and troops from across the entire of the modern Commonwealth. There are no second-class citizens in this country, black or white, rich or poor, gay or straight, religious or atheist, man or woman. That flag belongs to all of us, not just some of us. We've also seen Jewish people murdered and attacked in their shawls and on our streets. Kids in my constituency trying to hide their school uniforms and Stars of David because they fear being abused or attacked just for being Jews. Globalise the Intifada in deeds, not just words. Racism, on the march, shocking, shameful, and a stain on this nation's conscience and reputation. Nigel Farage and Reform seek to exploit division and hatred to benefit from it at the ballot box. And when it comes to anti-Semitism on the left, the Green Party choose to look the other way because their party is now riddled with that which we expelled. So this is our fight. This has always been Labour's fight, not just to confront the forces of racism, discrimination and hatred, but to build a path to a better and brighter future for everyone, where everyone has got a stake in this country and everyone has the opportunity and security they need, not just to survive, but to thrive. This country has been through so much in the last 20 years. The financial crash, austerity, Brexit, Liz Truss, the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and now the war in Iran. All of this has taken its toll. Too many people work harder but feel they're getting nowhere. Too many communities see progress that passes them by. Too many feel that Britain is in decline. They feel it in their pay packets that no longer stretch to the end of the month. They feel it in public services they rely on, but no longer trust. They work harder, yet feel less secure. They contribute, but do not feel valued. They obey the rules, but can see when others don't do the same. The richest 10% hold 57% of total wealth. The bottom 50% hold just 4%. 60% of private wealth is inherited rather than created. A nurse with a student loan sees a bigger share of their income disappearing in tax than a landlord does on rising property values. The result is fertile ground for the politics of resentment, for the promise that the nation can be made great again by retreating from the world, closing borders and finding scapegoats. We see it in the rise of self-confident racism, anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. But decline is not inevitable. Britain has extraordinary strengths, world-class science, deep capital markets, world-renowned culture, strong institutions and a people rich in talent. But we are failing to turn those strengths into rising prosperity for everyone. The biggest fear I have about Britain today is that sense of cynicism that's in the air, the sense that things won't get better. And I fear that, unchecked, that cynicism risks sliding into fatalism, a conviction that things can't get better. Why does this sense of the inevitability of decline exist? Why has a belief in progress faltered? First, we are isolated in a dangerous world dominated by an unpredictable superpower in the USA, a rising superpower in China, and a failed superpower in Russia. Second, we face an economy that is stagnant but being disrupted by technology and AI that we no longer feel control over. Third, our public discourse online is a cesspit of misinformation and extremism, where reasoned debate feels impossible and fear is weaponized by our enemies. Today's politics must deal with the immediate issues that concern voters: affordability, small boats, the NHS. But we also need it to rise to the big issues that define our age. We need a bigger politics. Let's embrace diversity of thought and competition for ideas as a strength. We won't find radical solutions by ignoring ideas in favour of just problem solving, as though government is the same as management consultancy, or if we believe that one person or one faction has a monopoly on ideas and wisdom. Nor will they come from traditional ways of governing that refuse to take risks, work in the open, or experiment. But at the core are three big, important choices we have to make as a country that can help us regain our sense of progress. First, leaving the European Union was a catastrophic mistake. The Vote Leave campaign deluded itself into thinking that the UK could forge a global free trade nirvana, as though we still had the East India Company at our disposal. They were totally blind to the zero-sum world the extreme right and their fellow travellers were creating, a dog-eat-dog world of dictators and oligarchs, where middle powers going it alone is a fantasy. It's left us less wealthy, less powerful, and less in control than at any point before the Industrial Revolution. We can no longer afford to be silent about it. We must remake the argument. In 2026, the British people increasingly see that in a dangerous world we must club together, both to rebuild our economy and trade and improve our defence against the shared threats from Russian aggression and the retreat of America first. The biggest economic opportunity we have is on our doorstep. We need a new special relationship with the EU because Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union. Second, a continuity between our current government and the new Labour government is a reluctance to ask the question, what type of capitalism do we want? We've tended to assume that we're simply the recipients of change inflicted on us by technology or economic headwinds, rather than realising that it is our rules, our institutions, our alliances that shape the kind of economy we have. This is an argument for a Britain that grows again and grows together, not just growth that shows up in spreadsheets in Whitehall or stock prices in the city. We need growth that people can feel in their wages, in their high streets, in the chances their kids have in life. Social democracy only works when the economy is growing. You cannot build world-class public services or raise living standards by managing decline. So Labour must be unapologetic about wealth creation, backing the builders, the innovators, the entrepreneurs and the workers who drive prosperity. That means reindustrialising Britain, spreading opportunity beyond London and the South East, backing industries from clean energy to life sciences and advanced manufacturing, and taking on the vested interests and monopolies holding our country back. We should be a magnet for global talent and investment, open to the best ideas and the brightest people. with the confidence to trade, compete and win. Third, we treat the destruction of shared truth, the atomisation of audiences, the algorithmic amplification of the worst of us as if it were a force of nature. It isn't. We've chosen to hand the pen to tech moguls in Silicon Valley to write our future for us. It is time to take the pen back from the tech broligarchs. In the 1920s, a previous generation, one or two of them here, looked at a new communications technology, the radio, and they made a choice that defined British public life for a century. They created the BBC. It was not an obvious choice. The American path was available and actually seemed more modern. The choice to build a public institution, paid for collectively, accountable, with a mission rather than a market, took political bravery. It required taking on the vested interests of the day, which were considerable. We need that scale of imagination again. What is the BBC-shaped intervention for the era of platforms? What would it mean to build, not just regulate? What public infrastructure for information, for civic discourse, for trust would we be proud to hand on to our children? These are some of the questions I want us to start asking, debating and discussing. We'll regain our sense of progress through that shared conversation and a bigger politics. If this country is going to weather yet another storm, we need to give people hope that what we're doing, the choices we're making, are in pursuit of something better at the end of it all. Markets are powerful. Enterprise matters. Wealth creation is essential. But left to themselves, markets do not guarantee dignity, security, or fairness. They generate prosperity, but they also breed inequality, insecurity, and concentrations of power that can leave whole communities behind. The job of government is not to stand aside and hope for the best. It is to shape the market so that power, wealth and opportunity are in the hands of the many, not just the privileged few. That is the social democratic tradition, which begins with a really simple proposition. Together we achieve more than we achieve alone. At its best, our tradition is revisionist, intellectually curious, always willing to learn, to adapt, and to govern the world as it is without surrendering the values that tell us how the world ought to be. We measure our success in outcomes, not just good intentions. Our tradition says that your chances in life should not be determined by the postcode you're born into, the wealth of your parents, or the school you happen to attend. It says that freedom means more than the absence of restraint. You're not truly free if you're priced out of good health, if your wages do not cover the bills, if your housing is insecure, or if your children inherit fewer opportunities than you had. That's why social democrats built the great institutions of modern Britain: the welfare state, council housing, comprehensive education, and above all, our National Health Service. Not as acts of charity, but as expressions of citizenship. The idea that certain guarantees, healthcare, education, security in old age, should belong to everyone because everyone matters equally. And that principle remains as relevant now as it was in 1945. I came into politics to make sure that kids from working class backgrounds like mine have the same choices and chances, security and opportunity as those from the most privileged backgrounds. For the first time in our country's modern history, it is now the case that the next generation face prospects that are poorer than the last. That is what I am determined to change. I find it so profoundly shocking. I see it in my own constituency, in the lives of the kids growing up in the same sort of poverty I grew up in back in the 1980s. The tragedy is that on so many levels it's worse for them now than it was for me. The council flat I wanted to escape is now something children aspire to. They don't have the security of a council flat. They're living in bed and breakfasts and temporary accommodation. They don't have the stability of a great state education to set them up for life like I had. Because as they're moved from pillar to post, they're often moved from school to school. So no chance for their teachers to work their magic. Their parents don't have the support of an extended family network like my mum had to help with childcare or to make up the shortfall from the weekly shop. Because they're often moved across towns and cities or even between towns and cities, breaking families apart. It doesn't have to be this way. None of this has to be this way. The council estate where I grew up was built out of a bomb site because in 1945, Clement Attlee's government said that even in the aftermath of the Second World War, Britain was still capable of doing big things. We still can. Each generation used to leave this country better for the next. We still can. We used to have a health service that was the envy of the world. We still can. We used to believe that everyone deserved a home of their own. We still can. We used to make the argument that Britain's future lies in Europe. We still can. This country used to punch above its weight in the world, and we still can. There are around 1,000 days or so to go until the next general election. One of my great political heroes, the former Prime Minister of Australia, Paul Keating, once told me his mantra, never waste a minute. There is no time to waste. The future is not yet written. It is ours to build. So let's be motivated by the scale of the challenge we face, not weighed down by it. We have a responsibility to be the change that people want to see, to show that politics can be a force for good again, to prove that Britain's best days lie ahead, to unite progressives and smash reform, and we still can. Thank you very much.
Was Wes Streeting there giving his thoughts on what needs to happen, so that will give us an idea of, if he were leading this country, what he believes should be the way to move. Now, a lot of it, he talked about the wipeout of Barnsley, Sunderland, Gateshead, Wakefield, all of those going to reform. He talked about Scottish nationalism and extremism that risks breaking up the United Kingdom, and then he talked of English nationalism and warned off Farage. He said the people believe that Labour are incapable of rising to the challenge that this country needs. And he also talked about that Labour have been in existence for over 125 years and only in power for 35, which should actually tell us all something. But he claimed that what it was, we haven't had a conversation in the Labour Party as to who or what we stand for. Instead, we've been challenging ideas, he said. Debate was considered division and it was shut down. However, questions that were avoided in opposition could not be avoided in power, hence the reason that we are in the situation that we are in now. He said that the Green Party were riddled with people that they expelled, and he talked about all the mobilised intifada. As we know, the Green Party has many people who support the pro-Palestine marches, but however, I'm not so. I think he was on slightly shaky ground with that one. So then he said, this is our fight. This has always been Labour's fight. He blamed Brexit, he blamed the pandemic, he blamed Liz Truss, he blamed everything else but the Labour Party for the position we are in. He blamed the USA, he blamed China, he blamed Nigel, of course. He said we have to acknowledge mistakes, and he said that leaving the EU is catastrophic. And he said, we are in less control at any time before. Now, there were so many things he talked about. It was really something. Let's go to our political commentator, David Wooding, for his thoughts on this. David, so what was your take on what Keir Starmer, crikey, they're all moulding into one, sorry about that, Wes Streeting had to say?
Well, first of all, it was a thumping speech, and a lot of the Labour moderates will have liked that. He covered quite a lot of ground, as you've just explained there, Nana. But I think the big news story out of that is that he says he wants to rejoin the EU. And Andy Burnham, who is at the moment plotting his return to the Commons and hopefully a triumphant march into Downing Street, he would think, is also saying the same thing. So I think we now know there's a clear dividing line there between the Conservatives and Reform, and also between the parties of the left, including Labour, that they are now really focused on rejoining the EU. We've always known Keir Starmer is a Remainer and wanted to overturn the referendum result when he was in opposition, but he has pledged as part of his mandate for power that he would stay outside the EU. But we really know what he wants to do, and now it seems that as power slips from his hands, the people who may take over are really quite clear that they want to rejoin the EU.
He talked about coming into politics to make sure working class had the same opportunities as the privileged, and that for the first time in history the next generation will be less privileged than the one before them. But again, not taking any responsibility for what Labour's part would be in that if they continue under the current trajectory.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, the fear now is that Labour won't continue under the current trajectory. In fact, that it will lurch further to the left. I mean, the bond markets have already been spooked by Andy Burnham entering the race after what he said about not being in hock to the markets. So, yes, the answer, the strange conundrum here, Nana, is that Reform are on the march, and the answer of everybody who wants to topple Keir Starmer is let's do more left-wing things. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. They've diagnosed the problem, but the prescription is just totally wrong. Totally wrong.
Right.
It's like,
absolutely right.
How could
absolutely
that be?
Right, yeah.
If, for example, let's imagine that, say, Wes Streeting or Andy Burnham become leader of the Labour Party, because it could be any one of those. If they are going and lurching further to the left, do either of them have a mandate to govern, seeing as the party wasn't elected on that at all?
No, and whenever the Conservatives changed leader during the last government, they were screaming blue murder about for a general election. But there's something fundamentally different here, because Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson did actually get a mandate. He went for an election, but they all kept to the same rules, basically to the same election manifesto of their predecessor. But what's happening, what we think may be happening here, certainly with Andy Burnham, is that there'll be a distinct change. Higher taxes. He's talking already about a 50% tax rate. So the calls for a referendum, if Keir Starmer, not a referendum, a general election.
Oh, they'll never give us a referendum on that again.
Yeah, no, they'd have to have one if they wanted to rejoin the EU for sure. But the calls for a general election would be irresistible if Andy Burnham tried to put up taxes and do things which weren't in the manifesto.
And he also said, and what a day for us to gather, Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom. What we've experienced is a kind of racism. Our country's flag's used as a sign of division, he said, on lampposts to send a signal to people that this area is made for people like them, not for the likes of, and he didn't name the people on the front bench, but it was clearly David Lammy and Shabana Mahmood, who he was alluding to. Now, that, to me, is quite a bold thing, to accuse people of putting a lamppost in their own country's flag, that is a sign of some sort of racism. Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think what the circle he was trying to square there was that a lot of lefties believe that the flag is a symbol of disunity when it should be a symbol of unity, and it's the people going marching with those flags, many of them are doing it for a good purpose. The problem is it has been hijacked in some cases by an extreme right-wing faction, a minority. But I think Wes Streeting was quite clear in his condemnation also of the hard left, the Greens, who are riddled with, to use his word, with anti-Semitism, and the hate marches in support of Palestine. Again, I'm sure some of the people going on those marches genuinely feel they want the war in Gaza to stop, but there are a sizable proportion of people out on those marches who simply hate Jews and are being racist. And I think he covered both ends on that one, so I'm not sure we can be too critical of him on that.
All right, well, listen, we will leave it there. Really good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
That is David Wooding. Right, let's have a chat with my panel. Joining me now, Layla Cunningham, and also Ed Gemmell. Layla Cunningham, you've been chomping at the bit to say something. Go on, girl. What did you think of all of that?
I'm speechless. I've never seen such a tone-deaf speech. You know, what struck me most, he didn't ask once why people are angry. He didn't reflect what his own government has done. Instead, it was a moral lecture. You know, everyone is racist, divisive, dangerous. His entire speech was basically, nothing's our fault. You know, the public's being manipulated because the public's stupid, by the way. They got Brexit wrong. And our opponents are bad people. Honestly, I'm shocked that his answer is a closer alignment with the EU as opposed to building a country that can stand on its own 2 feet. And I'm just looking at my notes, you know. And then he talks about people didn't vote for Brexit because we hated Europe, by the way. We voted for Brexit because we wanted sovereignty, accountability, and control. And what scared me as well was shape the market. You know, for me, when the government shapes the market, that's what we've had for the past 20 years. That's how we ended up with overpriced houses, stagnant wages, mass migration, and a generation locked out of home ownership. We don't want the government to pick the winners and losers because government then control and power and money and profits does consolidate at the top. Honestly, it's obvious that the Labour Party and Streeting in particular haven't forgiven the public for voting the wrong way. You know, they haven't forgiven us. How dare we? And you know, and the fact that if people want a country that still feels like home, right, that they can recognise with their own values, their own way of life, their own traditions and values, somehow that makes them racist. Or what's wrong with being a nationalist? I'm trying to figure it out. I love my country, and I sincerely think that the interests of my country and the people of this country should come first. All right. Somehow that's dangerous to them.
All right, let's bring in Ed Gemmell. Ed, what do you think of that?
I hated the speech. So it sounded to me like Keir Starmer number 2, emotionless, sterile, and negative. You know, and whether it's him or anybody else, I'd like people to get up and talk about how Britain is great. We're already great. We are continuing to be great, and we're going to be greater. And this is the way I'm going to make it greater.
Well, he did. He talked about reindustrialisation and he talked about green energy, which I thought that you'd be happy with. A clean revolution, he called it.
He did, but almost in a throwaway sentence, in a tirade of negativism. And you're right, he did say people are going to have growth they can feel. And he did talk about investing in clean industries, investing in future tech and all that sort of thing, which is good. But if that had been 80% of it, telling us how he's going to grow GDP, telling us why my life's going to be better, I'll have more money in my pocket, why my kids are going to have a better job, why my kids are going to have an easier access to university or to the right training, whether it's university or not, to get on, and why we are going to be going gangbusters in this country, growing. And then if he'd said about this EU thing, and if he'd then said, and then to do that, one of the things we need is a better contract with Europe, one that works for us, works for our industry, works for our markets, works for everything we're doing in the UK, and helps us all get better lives, feel stronger, feel that we believe in Britain, and feel everything's getting better for us. Wow.
No,
you know, I would have been behind him there.
I don't agree with you. We had that relationship with Brexit, and none of those things you mentioned turned out to be true. You know, Blair, who I think Starmer, Streeting, aligns himself with, you know, he inherited net migration in the 50,000. He left it in 250,000, and they create, you know, he's the one that waived transitional controls in 2004. And in waiving transitional controls in 2004, he created the very conditions that made Brexit come about. Trade unions begged Blair not to impose transitional controls because to protect wages. You know what they did? They undercut the working class by letting everyone in. And then they had the audacity to campaign for Remain and call anyone that voted Brexit as racist, delusional and stupid as if they were tricked.
So, I mean, historical negativism. Are you saying to me, though, when you interrupted me there, that we should not have a better commercial contract with the European Union that's better for our industry, better for our finance and better for people in Britain? Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that I want to build a country that can stand up on its own. You know very well.
So you don't want a better contract with our top trading partners.
well.
I love what you're saying, guys.
very
disastrous.
But sadly, I have to leave it there. We'll come back. They're going to be with us all afternoon. We'll be going back to the United Kingdom rally very shortly, but let's check out the weather in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The weather across southern Europe is looking fairly mixed tomorrow. We do have high pressure out in the Atlantic just to the west of Iberia, and that's bringing generally settled conditions across much of Spain and Portugal. Not totally dry though, a few outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the north, and there are some outbreaks of rain further east, particularly around parts of Croatia and Greece, and some of this could be heavy at times. But the fine weather looks to be more dominant as we go into next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I'm not sure that we used to celebrate VE Day or even the end of the Second World War until recent years, and that's a reflection of the fact that the veterans who fought and took part in that campaign and everyone on the home front are themselves disappearing. Yes, it's partly to do with education. There are huge political pressures on what's in education and in the history package, which of course isn't compulsory. When we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, there was a much higher understanding of what past sacrifice meant. And people, of course, were seen far more often in uniform in the streets, and they were coming back from operational service and about to depart. And that all makes a huge difference. Now, of course, war is very distant. It's in the Gulf. It's in Ukraine. It's not impacting us in the same way that it was doing about 20 years ago.
Matthew, let's bring you in at this stage. Do you think Gen Z is ignorant to Britain's war heroes, or do you think it's just a lack of curiosity?
Yeah, I don't think Gen Z are ignorant. They're just a matter of being the way they've been brought up, how they've been brought up, and when they've been brought up. You know, when this generation have been coming through school, there hasn't been the veterans, because the veterans of the Second World War and the First World War have passed away. So it's not in their face as much. The rhetoric that they're getting taught in schools has been influenced a lot in the past sort of 30, 40 years with more left-wing, and I don't mean, I'm not trying to drag this into a political bias, but there is more left-wing rhetoric getting passed out in school.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back. This is GB News, and we will return to the United Kingdom rally. I'm Nana Akua, but let's cross live now to listen to Wes Streeting, who's actually making his first speech since resigning from the Cabinet. Have a listen.
So, one of the things that I was proud of with our agenda in health was it wasn't just about improving the service and improving the morale of staff. It was fundamentally about giving more power, more ease, more convenience, more choice and control to patients, power to the patient. And I want to see that running through our public service reform agenda like a golden thread. We can't deliver public services without brilliant public servants, and we need to invest in them, their leadership, their training. We need to give them more agency. I'm also in favour of freedom to the front line. But the Labour Party should never forget that there are always producer interests and user interests. We should always be on the side of the user, fundamentally. Public services are there to serve the public, not the providers. Which brings me to the question on housing, which I will have a lot to say about, I suspect, during the course of this campaign. Chris Curtis is here somewhere. There, where is he? There he is, he's at the back. You will have heard him earlier today. He's always doing his stuff on growth and YIMBYism, and frankly, if every council in the country was building homes as quickly as Milton Keynes, we wouldn't have a problem meeting our housing targets. But we wouldn't. But we're not, and we wouldn't meet our housing targets if we carry on like this. So I think we do need to think seriously about how we can build more homes more quickly, and not just affordable homes in inverted commas, genuinely affordable homes, and social housing, good quality social housing. But we will only be able to do that if we take on some vested interests. And look, I love the natural environment as much as anyone, I really do. But the species I'm most worried about in this country at the moment are children living in mouldy bed and breakfast. They're the people
has declared that he will be standing in the Labour leadership election. That is the thing that I wanted to bring you. He's now talking about housing, and pretty much everybody else is brief. A quick reaction from Layla. You've got about 20 seconds to react to him standing. He's confirmed it now.
I mean, you can't change the salesman and keep the same product. You know, I don't think it will make any difference. It's the same failed orthodoxy, you know, mass migration, high taxes, high welfare, expensive energy, you know, excessively regulated government that controls everything in our lives. People don't want that. People don't want to be smeared as well.
General feeling, stale, negative, not getting me inspired whatsoever. The talk about housing, so long as it's housing on brownfield sites, protecting our green belt and producing the right sizes that we want, 2- and 3-bedroom homes like that, but it's got to be done in the right way.
Well, many on the left will be welcoming this, because one of the reasons why Labour didn't do so well, apparently, was that they weren't going far left enough. So this will be an absolute joy to Labour's base, which I believe maybe perhaps that's Wes Streeting and who he's playing to. But next up in my niggle, I went to the United the Kingdom rally. I'll be reporting back on exactly what I found. Was it far right? Well, you shall find out. First, though, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. And we're continuing to see a band of rain push across the country over the next few hours, with scattered showers following. As a result, it won't be as cold tonight. A westerly breeze developing from the Atlantic. This weather system just slowly pushing its way eastwards over the coming hours. So as we head towards the evening and overnight, outbreaks of rain across eastern areas, most persistent across Scotland into the early hours. Elsewhere, showers following, but also some clear spells. Quite blustery across Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, and overall temperatures with more cloud around them. Recent nights holding up around 6 or 7 degrees, perhaps even double figures across the southeast, but it does mean a bit of a cloudy start here. Also a cloudy start Sunday morning across much of Scotland, with outbreaks of rain pushing northward. Some glimmers of sunshine through the central belt, but also a scattering of heavy and blustery showers. A mixture of sunshine and showers for Northern Ireland to begin the morning. Very similar across northern England, but plenty of sunshine as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of England and Wales and too. But we'll see some hazy sunshine and some showers across western areas, and also fairly cloudy across the far southeast first thing as rain slowly clears. Through the day we'll see frequent showers starting to build in from the west. Some of these will be heavy at times, possibly thundery too, with some hail, but there'll be spells of sunshine in between the showers, the best of these across parts of central and eastern England, and temperatures here reaching around 16 or 17 Celsius, still fresh across the northwest. Chilly start on Monday morning, bands of showery rain pushing eastwards across England and Wales, but some sunny spells for Northern Ireland and Scotland, and then showers developing later, ahead of the next weather system moving in by the end of the day to bring some heavy rain for Monday night and into Tuesday. But then from Wednesday onwards, temperatures start to rise.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell, and Reform UK's 2028 mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham. So coming up in my niggle. And do you feel that makes you far right?
Definitely not. Absolutely not far right. No. Absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with wanting to control your borders.
Nothing wrong at all. We've heard a lot about the far-right rally that's taking place in London today. But what is the truth? Well, I went along myself to find out. You won't want to miss that one. Also, coming up, Labour leadership speculation is reaching fever pitch. Wes Streeting has just announced he'll be running in a Labour leadership race in his first speech since resigning from the Cabinet. Meanwhile, Andy Burnham prepares himself to fight a by-election that could hold the keys to number 10, which, if he loses, he'll be locked out of. I'll be bringing you the latest developments comments on that. In difficult conversations, joining me, human rights activist Peter Tatchell, who spent today at the Palestine Solidarity Campaign March, which marks the 78th anniversary of the Nakba. He'll be explaining why later. And in the next Great British debate, Andy Burnham may be getting ready to be our Prime Minister, but who actually voted for him and his far-left agenda? I could also say the same about Wes Streeting. Later in the show, we'll be discussing whether Andy Burnham has a mandate to govern. My poll is live on gbnews.com. Please cast your vote now. But before we get started, your latest news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much indeed. Now let's get you up to date with the latest headlines from the GB newsroom. Wes Streeting's confirmed he will stand in any contest for the Labour leadership. The former Health Secretary has been speaking publicly for the first time since he resigned from the Cabinet on Thursday, when he accused Sir Keir Starmer of a vacuum of leadership. Mr Streeting says he wants to see whether Andy Burnham wins the Makerfield by-election before launching a challenge to the Prime Minister, as forcing an immediate contest wouldn't be in the party's or the country's interest. Labour MPs have less than 48 hours to put themselves forward for selection in that upcoming by-election.
We need a proper contest where all candidates can put their best foot forward. It's got to be a battle of ideas so that whoever wins comes out stronger for it. Because when Labour loses, the country loses, and the stakes are higher than ever. Because for the first time in Labour's history, our biggest opponents aren't the Conservatives, but Nigel Farage and Reform. Imagine the consequences of losing a general election to that man. And unless we change course, that is where we are heading.
11 people have been arrested for a variety of offences as part of an unprecedented police operation to control competing protests in London. Some live pictures here from Parliament Square. These are protesters attending the Unite the Kingdom march organised by Tommy Robinson. They gathered earlier in Holborn before heading to Whitehall, and then the rally you're watching at the moment. Many waving union flags and chanting, "We want Starmer out." Now, more than 4,000 police officers deployed have been given extra powers to deal with these competing gatherings. The separate pro-Palestinian march, marching Nakba Day, started in Kensington before heading to Waterloo Place via Piccadilly. Scotland Yard says it's been using live facial recognition technology for the first time in a protest operation. Earlier, the Justice Secretary, David Lammy, said authorities would act swiftly if protests turn violent. Lebanon's health ministry says 6 people, including 3 paramedics, have been killed by an Israeli airstrike on a town in the south of the country. It comes hours after the US said the 2 countries had agreed to a 45-day extension to their ceasefire. However, Israel has continued to strike the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah throughout the fragile truce. Separately, Israel has carried out strikes in the southern city of Tyre after issuing evacuation orders. Hezbollah, in response, has targeted Israeli barracks in the northern city of Kiryat Shmona with drones. Meanwhile, President Trump says the second in command of ISIS has been killed in a joint operation carried out by the US and Nigerian forces. The US president described the mission as meticulously planned and praised Nigeria for its role in eliminating Abu Bilal al-Minuki, one of the world's most wanted terrorists. A charity's called for a wider rollout of the meningitis vaccine after a teenager in Oxfordshire died after contracting the disease. Lewis Waters, a 6th form pupil at the Henley College, died earlier this week. 2 pupils, one from Reading Bluecoat School, the other from Highdown Secondary School in Reading, are being treated for meningitis. The Department of Health and Social Care said authorities are reviewing eligibility for routine meningitis jabs. And big celebrations taking place right now in some parts of Scotland after Celtic came from behind in an astonishing finale to beat the long-time leaders' Hearts and deny them a First League title since 1960. For Celtic, it was their 5th title in a row. Hearts, it was last day devastation for them as Celtic came from behind to win the game 3-1. Hearts having taken a lead just before half-time. Celtic equalising from the penalty spot, and then they scored 2 late on to spark those celebrations you're watching now. And an incredible turnaround for Martin O'Neill there, you can see, holding the trophy because he had 2 stints in charge this season. First when he came in after Brendan Rodgers stepped down, and then again when Wilfred Nancy's short, ill-fated reign came to an end. And it kicked off these celebrations, as you can see, in Glasgow and no doubt in many other parts of the city as well. So congratulations to Celtic and commiserations to Hearts. What a finish to the Scottish Premiership season. And those are your headlines. I'll have more for you at about 4:30.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. They said that the Unite the Kingdom rally was far right. Now, far right is defined as an umbrella term for political ideologies that sit at the furthest right end of the traditional left-wing political spectrum, characterised primarily by extreme nationalism, nativism and authoritarian tendencies. So, I thought, why not? I went to the Unite the Kingdom rally in search of the far right. Right, so I've come to the Unite the Kingdom, the rally. Of course, the big thing that's happening in central London, there's another rally the other way down there. And I'm in search of the far right because I've been told that this is full of far right agitators. So I'm on my way. Let's see. OK. Right. And why are you here?
Well, I'm a Church of England clergy, so I'm here to be amongst the English people and support them and get to know people and witness of the resurrection of Jesus Christ and how he can change people's lives. So,
how do you feel about this protest being referenced as far right?
Well, I would encourage people to come down and see and meet people, and you'll find out that it's not far right. Yeah.
Just come down to, support the march. Not for any reason to cause any trouble.
What do you make of what's happening to our country? Do you think people are losing faith?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Losing faith in our political leaders. They have no integrity, they're not honest, and they're a bunch of charlatans. If you have a manifesto, do what you say in your manifesto. Don't bring in things that are close to your heart, like digital ID, open borders, mass uncontrolled immigration.
So why have you come down here?
Well, we just want to have a lovely future for our children, our grandchildren, and this government has really not done us any favours. It's just getting from bad to worse. So we just, our culture, our patriotism, we want to keep it as British.
How do you feel about them sort of referring to people who are coming here as far right?
Well, that is ridiculous. You can see around you, everybody is all in a very good, positive mood today. There's no problems, there's no trouble. Nobody's far right here. We're all on the same page, and we all want to have, a good future for our children.
If you could fix one thing about this country, what would it be?
Control the borders. Absolutely control the borders. That'd be the main thing, yeah, to control the borders.
And do you feel that makes you far right?
Definitely not. Absolutely not far right. No. Absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with wanting to control your borders. So that's not far right, not at all.
March is just kicking off, and I haven't found anyone who is far right here at all. Right, so did any of those people seem far right to you? Let's be clear. If it was, I wouldn't have been welcome there, would I? Yet I was at more risk of being hugged to death. Now, Keir Starmer yesterday banned 11 people that he deemed as far-right agitators.
Tomorrow's march in London is a reminder of what we're up against in the battle of our values. The organisers, including convicted thugs and racists, are peddling hatred and division. Plain and simple. Their goal is to convince people that Britain's problems are caused by those living alongside them. But that is not the Britain that I know. This is a country built on decency, fairness and respect. A country that is at its best when people from different backgrounds come together in common purpose.
Look, nobody wants extremes of anything, but most people on that march were people passionate about this country who want the government to take control of our borders and look after the interests of the people of this country and keep that at the heart. There is nothing far right about that. Well, you're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, was Sir Keir Starmer right to ban the Unite the Kingdom speakers? 11 speakers have been banned from appearing at today's march. Is this a restriction of freedom of speech or the government protecting the UK from far-right agitators? So in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, was Keir Starmer right to ban Unite the Kingdom speakers? Then in the next Great British Debate, I'm asking, who would you choose over Wes Streeting or Burnham? Your choice. The Labour leadership election is well and truly on. Wes Streeting announced his intention just now. And, of course, Andy Burnham has found a route back into Parliament. So in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, would you choose Wes Streeting over Burnham? And this year, 4 pubs a day have called last orders. We'll be joined by a professional pub goer in the studio to discuss how we can save the Great British Boozer. All of that is on the way. Your thoughts, your comments, gbnews.com/your say. Well, I'm joined now by former Labour MP Graham Jones. So, Graham, you heard what Keir Starmer said. I had to obviously put that in because he did characterise the march as being something that the far right will be attending, and, you know, we're all a bit sick of that.
I think that, you know, we got to be very cautious when it comes to freedom of speech. We have to protect and value freedom of speech, and most of the people who do march are reasonable, decent people, and you have to accept that with different views. I'm not so sure why 11 people have been banned. The Prime Minister's obviously seen something I haven't, and I would be very reluctant to ban any speaker, and he must have very good reasons for doing that. Because I think that it could set a dangerous precedent. I think as far as it being far right, I have to say, I don't think there'll be many Green or Labour or Liberal voters in that particular march. I'll hazard a guess. I think that most people would vote for far right parties, but whether that makes it a far right march is a different question.
Well, I mean, look, in the other, you mentioned the Greens, they're probably at the Nakba march, which is, of course, where many pro-Palestine activists and the Greens and people like that will probably be at. But do you think it's fair that the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, continues to peddle that narrative when it is clear that as a black woman, and I don't like to characterise myself as that constantly, but it's a reality, that's what I am, I have no problem with that. I characterise myself as who I am, not how I look. But if it were far right in any way, shape or form, I certainly wouldn't have been welcomed.
I think people can hold far-right racist views but still be pleasant to people. I don't think that that's a contradiction. You know, people do make comments and then but don't display them in the way that they act. So I think we should be careful about, you know, casual racism, what racism is. And as far as the other rally goes, well, the same applies. I don't like banning rallies. There are far-left socialist worker placards that throughout the march, and some of the individuals involved, you know, tend to say things that aren't particularly pleasant. But again, I say this, that we must defend the right to free speech, although, you know, you look at that rally and some of the people who organised the far left rally and you do wonder, you know, who these people are and what they're up to.
Well, I'm just going to have to pull you up on that because we're talking about far right. We're not talking about some people might have racist views that they're perfectly pleasant. The far right would not be perfectly pleasant if they have any racist views. So I just, you know, I think it's really unfair that you could characterise people who may have some racist views, and most people have certain views that others might see as racist. Everyone's got their own sort of inbuilt views of different things, but you're allowed that. But far right is an extremist movement and they are people who wouldn't even allow, you know, they wouldn't allow disabled, black, gay. The far right are a very extreme movement, and I think the government and those within it need to be careful when they're characterising everyday British people as that, because it is an utter disgrace and it's totally unfair. But let me bring you to the fact that there was also face recognition characters at that march, but not at the other one. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you have to be very, very careful, because you will, at the very point that you've made, you will get discrimination pointed at the government. And I think the government has got to treat all citizens equally. And if you're doing it at one, you must do it at the other, or neither. And you must justify why you're doing it too. So I do find that the government, or whether it's the Met Police who's taken that decision and not the government, I don't know what conversations have gone on behind the scenes. But unfortunately, it does leave the government in a position where it looks like it's two-tier.
And this is not a good look, because Keir Starmer's government have been criticised of being that many times, and they don't really like that being said about them, and they've tried to silence people who say it. So again, that brings us back to freedom of speech. So, look, what would you suggest people do? Would you have gone to a rally like this to protest about the open borders, which is what most people were saying? They don't want open borders. I don't want open borders. That doesn't make me far right.
Well, I think the vast majority in the country don't want open borders.
Exactly.
There's very few people who do. So, I mean, you know, you're basically saying the whole country's far right. I find that these labels are used by people who can't really make a strong argument, and resorting to labels or name calling, I don't think does anyone's argument any credibility. I think you have to be careful. These people are protesting. They're making an objection. They've got an argument, and you should defeat the arguments, not stick labels on them.
Well, I think you should tell that to Keir Starmer and co, because that is exactly what needs to happen. Now, Wes Streeting, very briefly, Wes Streeting said that in the Labour Party that it was divisive because people didn't, you know, say things quite when they were in opposition, and they didn't answer questions. And now they are in government, they have to talk openly and ask questions and not be afraid to ask the relevant questions. But he, again, seemed to characterise people who put things on lampposts and their flags and everything as people who are saying that people who don't look like us are not welcome.
Yeah, I mean, this identity politics, I don't think it suits anybody. I return to the point I just made. You've got to go out there and make your argument. You've got to say to people, well, what's your argument? And this is my argument if you disagree. And there might be some overlap. You know, most people don't want open borders. They want an immigration system that secures the borders. So there is some common ground. I just think that labelling people and going out, I don't think it does Wes or anybody else any favours when you do that. Go and win the argument is the best way forward. And regarding the government and these marches, of course, we're not privy to the background of some of these individuals. We know that one individual has a several criminal records against them. Now, we don't know the full details of all that or the justification, but I would just say be careful when you're banning people. You know, you must do it with good reason.
Yeah, there's one in particular. There didn't seem to be any reason why they did it. Well, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. That's Graham Jones. He's a former Labour MP. Right, well, let's get back to Wes Streeting. We'll be going back to the United Kingdom rally as well. But Wes Streeting has just announced that he's going to contest any Labour leadership contest against the Prime Minister. Let's get an update from our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who was actually at the speech. So, Olivia, he made this speech. A lot of people felt that perhaps he's used some sort of AI himself, even though it sounded like he was opposing AI. What was the general feeling in the room after the speech, and what were the main standouts for you in that speech?
Well, I'm just outside the room where the speech took place, and Labour activists here were delighted. Overheard lots of people saying it's the best speech they'd heard in 10 years, in a lifetime in the Labour Party. There are certainly fans of Wes Streeting among the Labour Party membership. As for the speech itself, I mean, it was a pretty blistering attack on the Keir Starmer government, which until last week Wes Streeting served in. He talked about the timidity of the Labour government. He reiterated over and over again how reform Reform has been beating Labour in their heartlands and laid the blame for those defeats squarely at the feet of the Prime Minister. Then we heard Wes Streeting's plan for leadership, plan for what he would do with the Labour Party. I think the standout moment for me there was where he said that he now believes that leaving the European Union was a catastrophic mistake and that he would fight for Labour to first have a closer relationship with Europe and then rejoin the bloc. That's the first time I've heard a senior Labour leadership figure say something along those lines. He did say that he wouldn't fight to rejoin the European Union in this Parliament, because obviously it was in the Labour manifesto in 2024 not to campaign to rejoin. But that shows where Wes Streeting stands on that issue. He was interesting too about Andy Burnham. Someone asked if he thought he could really beat Andy Burnham, and if not, why was he opening up the Labour Party to weeks and weeks more of debate, protracted debate, which could harm the prospects of the party. And he said, well, if you like Andy Burnham, you should vote for Andy Burnham. He said that he would be going to Bakerfield, knocking on doors and campaigning for Andy Burnham. So he's sending out an olive branch to the current mayor of Manchester. Someone asked if it was a mistake for Josh Simons, the former MP for Bakerfield, to stand down in favour of Andy Burnham, saying that it's a gamble and that, of course, Labour could lose that seat. Wes Streeting acknowledged that it was indeed a gamble and said that some people would be sceptical about Josh Simons standing down in the way he did. Labour is clearly very aware that this by-election is not by any means in the bag for Andy Burnham. At the end of the speech, he gave a sort of sympathetic assessment of Keir Starmer, saying that whatever happens now, Keir Starmer led us to victory in the last election. I think that rang pretty hollow from a Health Secretary who's spent the last week deriding the Prime Minister.
All right, Olivia Utley, thank you very much indeed. 22 minutes after 4 o'clock, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Still to come in difficult conversations. I'll be speaking with veteran human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell about why he attended the pro-Palestine Nakba rally today. And then in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, was Keir Starmer right to ban the Unite the Kingdom speakers? Do not go anywhere. We'll also have some more live pictures from that rally. This is GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
26 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's #1 news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And, of course, you can download the GB News app. It is completely free. I'm Nana Akua. And it's time now for the Great British Debate. And I'm asking, was Sir Keir Starmer right to ban the United Kingdom speakers? Now, Sir Keir Starmer has defended banning several overseas speakers from today's United Kingdom rally, saying that the government won't allow people into Britain to spread hate on our streets. Critics, however, argue that it raises serious questions around free speech, political bias and who gets to decide where the line is drawn. So I'm asking, was Sir Keir Starmer right to ban the United Kingdom speakers? We've also got lots of live pictures from that rally. Joining me now is leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell, and Reform UK's 2028 mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham. I'm going to start with you, Ed Gemmell. He's banned 11 in total now.
I think there certainly should be a right to ban people that we think are going to come in and cause a problem. I don't see any issue with that legally at all. I think that's the right thing. Whether these were the right people to ban, whether he did it for the right reasons and that sort of thing, because I also believe in free speech and people should have the opportunity to talk about things. I mean, going on reports, and none of this confirmed, but I mean, of those people though that were banned, as I understand, one of them's a gentleman called Joey Manorino, who has gone out and is reported as having gone out to say that he would never believe a victim of rape again, no matter the verdict in court, and all rape cases have become fake. Now, assuming those reports are right, doesn't sound like a terribly pleasant person. I'm not sure of the law in why, Keir Starmer was able to ban, if this is it, but those sort of, the way of spreading that sort of divisive message, and something which 99% of the British public would disagree with, I think is appalling. So that individual, in my opinion, great he's not speaking. Having said that, I support free speech at the same time as supporting the fact we should be able to control it.
All right, Layla.
No, I don't think they should have banned them, because free speech is only free when you allow people to speak that you disagree with and say uncomfortable truth. You talk about him saying that he doesn't believe rape victims. In this country, only 6% of rapes end up in a charge, so 94% of victims are not believed, defended or investigated by the state. No one talks about that. And listen, I think the public are sick and tired, I am personally, of selective free speech. The state has to be very careful about deciding which opinions are allowed and which opinions are not. It is not the state's role to do that. And I find it the hoo-ha that Keir Starmer, Wes Streeting, have done about this, and even Sadiq Khan, about people protesting with the British flag and really protesting to say, we are British, we are here, take notice and prioritise us. I didn't see that hoo-ha when IRGC were marching on our streets, Al-Quds, with signs of Ayatollah Khomeini. Zip, nothing. They had the march against the far right that Zach Polanski had. He was marching side by side with people having signs of the Ayatollah Khomeini and saying how great he is in the IRGC. Now, that, for me, is completely two-tier policing. All those people should not only be banned, they should be kicked out of our country if they are not British, because they are traitors to this country. And so I think they should not have been banned. We allow people in and we allow debates. And fundamentally, speech is only free if disagreement is allowed. Who is Keir Starmer to tell me I can't hear what these people say? I might fundamentally disagree with them.
Okay.
But I want to,
I don't think we disagree totally on this, to be honest with you, because I think we both want free speech. We both also don't want, I believe, division, racism and all that sort of thing. And if the government and that, or with the advice of the police or the intelligence services, or wherever it is, has got the intelligence suggesting that there could be seriously nasty, insightful speeches happening, and particularly if those people are not British, then I do defend the right of the powers to stop that happening. So, and I don't think that is taking away the right of free speech of British people. And also, by them not coming in, to some extent, they can still be saying what they want to online. It's not that people can't be seeing it or hearing it or tuning into it, but they're not here on our streets inciting, in the opinion of, you know, the Foreign Secretary, the Home Secretary, the police and the Prime Minister, hatred on our streets.
So the problem is the line between extremism and disagreeing with the establishment is blurred. And right now, are you comfortable with the government deciding who we get let into this country and who we don't, who really are not criminals, have not committed a crime, just for words? We are policing words. Bear in mind that I don't see the same hoo-ha about the people arriving on boats, by the way. We have men arriving on boats that have gone on to sexually assault young girls. They're allowed free entry, complete access to our welfare system, put in towns and villages, and that's fine. Yet he blocks 7 people. One was an elected MEP. And today it's those people, by the way. Tomorrow, who else would it be? Could be you and I.
Well, I mean, they blocked somebody called...
It's a slippery slope.
They blocked someone called Ezra Levant. Now, they were banned from the UK attending the rally, but Mr Levant, who has worked for a number of Canadian newspapers, said that he would sue Sir Keir Starmer, and apparently the Free Speech Union said that it would back his attempts to appeal against the decision and secure an 11th-hour visa to come to Britain. I don't know whether they managed it, but he is basically a Canadian commentator and journalist who has no criminal convictions and has never advocated violence, intimidation, discrimination or terrorism, and rejects any assertion that he is far-right or would make threats or spread hate. That's from the Free Speech Union. So that's one of the people who's been banned out of the 11 in total that Keir Starmer is banned.
The problem is that people waving the Union flag causes more outrage for our Prime Minister than people waving photos of the Ayatollah Khomeini. And when they talk about hate, Wes Streeting and Keir Starmer, the only thing that means is people marching for British values and a British way of life and saying no to mass migration and no to illegal. That's what they call hate. They never say IRGC or Al-Quds marching is hate.
There's something very clear, I think, that we all agree with, that we should have proper control on who's coming into this country.
Absolutely.
And this is an element of having proper control. Whether they have exercised that properly is a completely different thing. And in terms of the list of people, as I haven't seen it all in detail, I don't think it's all been published, all 11, and we don't know all the backgrounds and exactly the reasoning, it's very difficult to argue. But the principle of us being able to control our borders and only let in the people that we feel should be coming in and have a right to come is correct.
Should we ban people just for speech? That is the fundamental question, right? Love of country is not hateful. Patriotism is not a public order threat.
Right.
If every expression of British identity and wanting to protect your values is treated as hate, then what are we fighting for?
But I also think we're trying to look at something in a spectrum, and we're talking about the fact that some of these people coming in, whether in small boats or anything else, shouldn't be coming in. Why? Because they're the sort of people we don't want in the country because of their histories. And then what we're doing is saying, oh, in another case, we don't want this person in because of their history, and now we're arguing they should come in. I think we need to have a better set out.
No, I don't think that's
But one second, but we're making the assumption they're not as well, and I don't have anything to say they are. It's just it hasn't been reported, and we haven't seen that information.
They're not criminals. Why is a government not allowing people with dissenting views to enter our country? It is maddening. What kind of free country do we have? Right. They're not threatening anything with national security. They have dissent. I might not agree with all of them, but free speech is only free when you are allowed to say things that offend other people.
Right, but it's only free as well when you defend it against racism and other things that could be in that speech. And we don't know the exact people and the exact circumstances.
All right, well, listen, you never know what somebody's going to say at any point, but some people on that list really, it seems a bit dubious as to why they were banned, but we shall find out in the coming days why on earth they were. Well, stay with me, still to come, Difficult Conversations. I'll be speaking with veteran human rights activist Peter Tatchell, who was at the other rally, the Akua one. He attended the pro-Palestine march, and then in the next Great British, in the next debate, I'm asking, who do you choose, Wes Streeting or Burnham? First, the latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you. Now to 25 minutes to 5. Our headlines. Wes Streeting has confirmed he will stand in any Labour leadership contest to replace Sir Keir Starmer. In his first speech since resigning from the Cabinet, the former Health Secretary said he'll wait to see whether Andy Burnham wins the Makerfield by-election before launching a challenge.
We need a proper contest with the best candidates on the field, and I'll be standing.
Met Police says 11 people have been arrested for a variety of offences at competing protests in London. The Unite the Kingdom march is organised by campaigner Tommy Robinson. The other, an annual pro-Palestinian demonstration to mark Nakba Day. Some 4,000 police officers were deployed to manage the gatherings. A charity's called for a wider rollout of meningitis vaccines following the death of teenager Lewis Waters in Oxfordshire this week. 2 other pupils from separate schools in Reading are being treated for the disease. Celtic have been crowned champions for a 5th time in a row, denying Hearts a first championship since 1960 and an incredible climax to the Scottish season. Celtic came from behind to win the game 3-1. Hearts had led the league for 250 days but finished second, 2 points behind the champions. And you're up to date for the moment. I'll keep you updated with the score in the FA Cup final between Manchester City and Chelsea as we go through the afternoon.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. And we do have some cloud and rain pushing across the country at the moment, and we'll have some blustery showers following from the west. The east has had some sunshine today, but this weather front is continuing to push its way eastwards, introducing that cloud and outbreaks of patchy rain, which there could be some heavier bursts later on. As we see for the evening time, the rain across parts of Scotland, central and eastern parts of England, and behind it showers following, blustery across Northern Ireland as we end the day and go into the early hours. 1 or 2 rumbles of thunder also possible. Some clearer spells developing across England and Wales, 1 or 2 mist and fog patches, but temperatures overall a little higher than recent nights with more cloud around and a westerly breeze. So cloudy start across Scotland on Sunday morning. Outbreaks of rain across central and northern areas, perhaps even a touch of snow over the Scottish mountains. But with milder air moving in, this is likely to turn back to rain quite quickly. Showers from the word go across Northern Ireland, a bright start across northern England, temperatures around 7 or 8 degrees, so a little higher than recent mornings, and a bright start across much of England and Wales as well, though there are some showers around too. Any mist and fog patches will quickly clear. And then a bright day for England and Wales on Sunday, some scattered showers developing, most frequent in the west, but some really heavy showers developing across Northern Ireland, western Scotland as we move through the day. Some of these moving into western parts of England and Wales later as well. Best of the sunshine across central and eastern areas, and here temperatures warmer, reaching 16 or 17 Celsius. The wind starting to change direction to a southwesterly, introducing some warmer weather and a sign of things to come. Blustery showers to end the day on a Sunday across the whole of the UK, the odd rumble of thunder, some hail in there too. And then moving forward, temperatures rising, still the risk of some showers and longer spells of rain initially.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? It's just been a very exciting programme. We've been live at the Unite the Kingdom rally, and we will be back there shortly. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's time for our Great British Debate, and I'm asking, would you choose Wes Streeting over Andy Burnham, in particular after what you just heard? The Labour leadership race appears to be taking shape, with Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham emerging as possible rivals for the top job. Streeting has now put himself forward, saying in a speech this afternoon that if there is a leadership contest, he will attend.
John, we need a proper contest with the best candidates on the field, and I'll be standing.
God help us. It's expected that Burnham would be the favourite with the Labour membership, as he would pitch himself as the more left-wing of the two. Crikey. But who would you prefer? And let's be honest, we don't really have a choice. But if you were to think about it, who would you say? Because we've got to have one of them for now anyway. Would it be Wes Streeting or would it be Andy Burnham? Well, joining me now is the leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell. Also Reform UK's 2028 mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham. Layla, if you had to choose one of those two, I mean, it's...
So let's break it down. So he's been the health secretary, and his major claim to fame is that he reduced NHS waiting lists. And we all know that was wrong, that they paid the NHS to reduce waiting lists by taking people off the list. In fact, what we found was the number of operations being given by the NHS actually went down as waiting lists went down. So they lied to us. They basically paid $3 million of our taxpayer money not to get more operations on the table, no, to fix the books. That's Wes Streeting. Andy Burnham, on the other side, I think there is something very distasteful about going from
the outfit he was wearing earlier, the trainers and the shorts.
But going from being mayor of Manchester, giving that up in pursuit of power, as if these are interchangeable roles. You know, and for him to just be parachuted into a seat and just expect to win it and become the leader, there's something really distasteful for me. And I will not forget, and I've spoken to victims, you know, the grooming gangs happened under his watch, and there's still no accountability. Answers still need to be made. So honestly, Nana, I couldn't give you an answer, because I think, as I said, it's the same product, just a different salesman.
Well, Wes Streeting would argue that he didn't lie. What he did was he explained that the waiting list had gone down, but didn't say why they'd gone down. So that was just I think that was an investigation via the Telegraph. And of course, many of the people on that list also died. So people died waiting, and then they paid NHS trusts $3 million to go through and basically update the list, which should be done anyway, but they did it, they were paid for it.
We're not surprised that we have to pay them $3 million to do that?
That's what you'd expect, but obviously people either got bored of waiting, they died, or they went private. Go on.
Ed Gemmell of the Climate Party. So,
yeah, I mean, look, who the hell is that?
Thank you for that, Nana. So look, I'm not socialist. I don't agree with all the policies of either of them, let's say. Well, not that we've really heard anything from Wes Streeting in that very sterile, terribly negative speech with almost no policy direction in it. But if I had to choose one over the other, then I would go for Andy Burnham. And I go for Andy Burnham, and this is saying that I wouldn't choose all their policies, but I go for Andy Burnham. Why? He's gone in Manchester. He's got on with the job. He's been re-elected there. People like him. What has he done? He's brought in a good net zero target there at 2038. He has grown their economy. The economy of Manchester is reported as growing at twice the speed of the British economy at the moment. So he's putting the work in where all of his policies are happening. He's getting things working. He's also a supporter of proportional representation. I actually think that that's the way forward now that we have this five or six major parties plus a whole load of others and things as well. Would create more collaboration, cooperation in government, and we would get better leadership for the country by bringing it in.
I just think they're both pretty dire. If I had to choose one, it might be Andy Burnham, but what I'm just concerned about the sort of really far left direction that they all seem to be going in, which wasn't really what the country voted for. But this shows nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome one of our Great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show, tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Let's go to Stretton in Shropshire and speak to Adrian Gell. Adrian, come on in, Adrian. Nana. What do you think?
Thank you for having me.
Who would you choose out of those two?
Well, as you say, Nana, to quote you, God help us all, because neither of these candidates are going to help the chaos that exists in the country at the moment. And if you Chuck Starmer in there as well. There's a triumvirate of useless politicians trying to run the country. The risk of turning even further left with either of the two candidates is absolutely horrendous. And what this country needs now is a return to the centre-right politics that we had 30 years ago. I think if Burnham stands there, which he's obviously going to, there's a risk that he might fail in his bid to win the seat, and then obviously that creates further chaos within the Labour Party. His political prospects, if that's the case, are then pretty much over.
Well, Adrian, look, we have to leave it there. But I hear you. He's got to get past reform in his by-election, and well, as you can see, reform lost many seats in there. Listen, Adrian, we do have to leave it there because we could talk for ages. I know you could. Adrian, lovely to talk to you. He's there in Stratton, in Shropshire. Very briefly back to the panel. Well, you see, Burnham actually does have to win his seat.
I was about to say, actually, it doesn't. It's kind of moot point because we're going to win it anyway.
I
mean, I don't think that's true. If you're looking at the polling by Compass that came out only a day or two ago, it's showing that Burnham is, with the public, potentially adding 20%, 19 to 20% to the Labour vote, and even amongst Reform voters, actually a percentage of Reform voters would vote for Andy Burnham in that area.
All right. You know what's the most accurate poll? Is an election.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. We'll totally agree with that.
Well, most people would say that if you're changing your mandate and you're not going further to the left, which is what was voted for, whoever of those candidates stands don't have a mandate to govern, but we'll ask you that very shortly, and we'll get some live pictures as well from the march that is happening. But if you're in search of some holiday sun and you want to get away, here are the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The weather across southern Europe is looking fairly mixed tomorrow. We do have high pressure out in the Atlantic just to the west of Iberia, and that's bringing generally settled conditions across much of Spain and Portugal. Not totally dry though, a few outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the north, and there are some outbreaks of rain further east, particularly around parts of Croatia and Greece, and some of this could be heavy at times. But the fine weather looks to be more dominant as we go into next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Today is Victory in Europe Day. Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
This historic proclamation by Winston Churchill was a moment for the nation to rejoice. Celebrations were held across Europe to mark the end of the Second World War. 81 years on, VE Day is commemorated. At Deangate Care Home in Barnsley, a special party was held to honour those who helped defeat the Nazis all those decades ago and to thank veterans at the home.
We are a veteran-friendly home, and I like to showcase all of our veterans at any time of the year, and VE Day is just a perfect reason, really, to really put them on a pedestal and show everybody how good our veterans are and the local community is. We should be so thankful for what they've done.
For the veterans here, the sacrifices of those who gave their today for our tomorrow should never be forgotten.
The main thing is that my father's medals, which I wear on my right side, is just a tribute to him and that he served all the way through the Second World War. And, of course, myself, when I served 22 years afterwards.
I think it was vital that they remembered this VE Day
and you know, we carried it on.
Their dad was the only one left out of 5 in that tank, so he was injured in there, and he was in the 8th Army under Montgomery's division.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, welcome. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, there aren't many causes that could unite Zach Polanski, Rachel Reeves and Nigel Farage, but National Pub Day is one of them, although Rachel won't be allowed in any of them. Political leaders of every stripe have set aside their differences to encourage all of us to support our local pubs at a time when multiple clubs, pubs even, are closing a day. Seems a little bit hypocritical given the policies they're putting in place. But let's speak to a professional pub goer, Thomas Vosper. Thomas, welcome. I see you have all your books there as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I like the sound of that. Professional pub goer's not bad, is it?
So talk to me about, you know, what do you love so much about the pubs, and what are your worries for it? You've written books about pub crawls.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, let's first acknowledge it's National Pub Day and pubs are in crisis at the moment. On average, 4 a day are closing, which is just staggering numbers. And dangerous not just for the communities that those pubs serve, but also if you think about pubs as an employer, they employ 50% of people who work in a pub are young people.
Yeah.
60% of people that work in a pub are non-UK people. It's their first way into getting into work when they arrive into the country.
Well, I've worked in a pub, have you?
Yeah, I am. I will say that I am better. I know the side of the bar that I'm better on for sure. Yeah. But I mean, this happened 20 years ago. Living in London as a proud Londoner, me and my friends got a little bit bored of probably some of the soulless nightclubs and bars that we were going to for birthdays, and I put together a route of about 10 or 12 pubs, and so we walked past Westminster and Nelson's Column and Trafalgar Square and through Covent Garden and enjoyed all that London has to offer, but of course stopping off for a pint along the way.
So you've got your historic pub crawls. Where have you got them? Because they're not just based in London, right?
Yeah, so it started as London for me, where I lived with my friends and family, and then I decided to put that into a self-published book, which suddenly, surprisingly, I sold. I think people tended to like a middle-aged dude going around into pubs. And then, yeah, it just became a thing. So I've got 2 books on London. I have a book on England, which explores Newcastle and Brighton and Manchester and Liverpool. I know, don't worry. I had a worse time when I said Salford when I went up that way.
Salford, oh, my God. That wouldn't be good. And you've got Ireland as well.
And yeah, so Ireland, and then the Scotland book comes out soon, but you know, for football fans going over to New York or Boston, I've got a great book on New York if you want to know where to go and have a drink before the football or afterwards.
What would be the one thing you would like the government to do to help out pubs? Because it seems that Rachel Reeves is at this thing sort of saying how she's going to collaborate with other people to help pubs, but she's not really doing anything to help, really.
Yeah, it's really tough. I'm really proud to be behind National Pub Day, and I'd love to encourage people to go to a pub as that third space. But it's not really down to just us to go to pubs, because there's a cost of crisis living, and it's too expensive to drink in a pub. But it's too expensive for publicans to run a pub. The taxes are too high. It's increasingly harder and harder for them.
All right, well, you tell us your name and the books. What are they called?
OK, so you can find me on all social media as Historic Pub Crawls on all socials channels. My name's Thomas Vosper, so you can look me up and you can buy my books at all major bookstores and on Amazon.
All right, Thomas, thank you so much. Really good to meet you. Well, we'll be bringing you the latest developments, of course, from the Unite the Kingdom rally. But first, that is a live picture. Let's get some weather.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility.
Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. And we're continuing to see a band of rain push across the country over the next few hours, with scattered showers following. As a result, it won't be as cold tonight. A westerly breeze developing from the Atlantic. This weather system just slowly pushing its way eastwards over the coming hours. So as we head towards the evening and overnight, outbreaks of rain across eastern areas, most persistent across Scotland into the early hours. Elsewhere, showers following, but also some clear spells. Quite blustery across Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, and overall temperatures with more cloud around them. Recent nights holding up around 6 or 7 degrees, perhaps even double figures across the southeast, but it does mean a bit of a cloudy start here. Also a cloudy start Sunday morning across much of Scotland, with outbreaks of rain pushing northward. Some glimmers of sunshine through the central belt, but also a scattering of heavy and blustery showers. A mixture of sunshine and showers for Northern Ireland to begin the morning. Very similar across northern England, but plenty of sunshine as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of England and Wales and too, but we'll see some hazy sunshine and some showers across western areas, and also fairly cloudy across the far southeast first thing as rain slowly clears. Through the day we'll see frequent showers starting to build in from the west. Some of these will be heavy at times, possibly thundery too, with some hail, but there'll be spells of sunshine in between the showers, the best of these across parts of central and eastern England, and temperatures here reaching around 16 or 17 Celsius, still fresh across the northwest. Chilly start on Monday morning, bands of showery rain pushing eastwards across England and Wales, but some sunny spells for Northern Ireland and Scotland, and then showers developing later, ahead of the next weather system moving in by the end of the day to bring some heavy rain for Monday night and into Tuesday, but then from Wednesday onwards temperatures start to rise.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I. Those are just facts. I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It's 5 o'clock and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next hour, leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell, and Reform UK's 2028 mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham. Well, in my niggle, and do you feel that makes you far right?
Definitely not. Absolutely not far right. Absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with wanting to control your borders.
Yes, we've heard a lot about the far-right rally that's supposedly taking place. It's not far-right, is it, in London today? But what is the truth? Well, I went along myself to find out. If you miss it, head over to GB News, our YouTube channel, and you can also catch it there on our socials. And coming up later, Labour leadership speculation is reaching fever pitch. Wes Streeting has announced that he will stand in a Labour leadership race. Meanwhile, Andy Burnham prepares himself to fight a by-election that could hold the keys to number 10. Of course, he could get locked out. We'll be bringing you the latest on that. And in difficult conversations, joining me in the studio, human rights activist Peter Tatchell, who spent today at the Palestine Solidarity Campaign March to mark the 78th anniversary of the Nakba. He'll be explaining why and what it's all about. Then, in the Great British Debate, Andy Burnham may be getting ready to be our next Prime Minister, but who actually voted for him and his left-wing agenda? Later in the show, I'll be discussing whether Andy Burnham has a mandate. My poll is live on gbnews.com. Cast your vote now. It's open for the next 20 minutes or so. But before we get started, your latest news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Nana. Good evening to you. 2 minutes past 5 in the GB Newsroom. Our top stories. Wes Streeting's confirmed he will stand in any Labour leadership contest to replace Sir Keir Starmer. The former Health Secretary says we need a proper contest with the best candidates on the field, and I'll be standing. He was speaking publicly for the first time since resigning from the Cabinet on Thursday. Mr Streeting added he wants to see whether Andy Burnham wins the Makerfield by-election before launching a challenge to the Prime Minister, as forcing an immediate contest wouldn't be in the party's or the country's interest. Well, Mr Streeting criticised Sir Keir Starmer's government in his speech and set out his priorities and pledges, including an ambition to rejoin the EU.
The biggest economic opportunity we have is on our doorstep. We need a new special relationship with the EU because Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
It's been confirmed that 31 people have now been arrested for a variety of offences as part of an unprecedented policing operation to control competing protests in London. Protesters attending the Unite the Kingdom march, organised by the activist Tommy Robinson, gathered in Holborn earlier before heading to Parliament Square, where a rally is taking place. Live pictures you're watching right now. Of course, many waving union flags. There are plenty of chants of "We want Starmer out" as well. More than 4,000 police officers deployed have been given extra powers to deal with the gatherings. The Met Police say, although the number may seem high, both protests have largely gone ahead without significant incident. Well, the separate pro-Palestinian march marking Nakba Day began in Kensington. They then headed to Waterloo Place via Piccadilly. Scotland Yard says it has been using live facial recognition technology for the first time in a protest operation. The Justice Secretary David Lammy has said authorities will act swiftly if the protests turn violent. Lebanon's health ministry says 6 people, including 3 paramedics, have been killed by an Israeli airstrike on a town in the south of the country. It comes hours after the US said the 2 countries had agreed a 45-day extension to their ceasefire. However, Israel has continued to strike Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant group, throughout the fragile truce. Separately, Israel carried out strikes in the southern city of Tyre after issuing evacuation orders. Hezbollah, in response, targeted Israeli barracks in the northern city of Kiryat Shmona. Meanwhile, President Trump says the second-in-command of global ISIS has been killed in a joint operation carried out by US and Nigerian forces. The US president described the mission as meticulously planned. He praised the government of Nigeria for its role in eliminating Abu Bilal al-Minuki, one of the world's most wanted terrorists. The charity's called for a wider rollout of meningitis vaccines after a teenager in Oxfordshire died after contracting the disease. Lewis Waters, a sixth form pupil at the Henley College, died earlier this week. Two pupils, one from Reading Bluecoat School and another from Highdown Secondary School in Reading, are also being treated for the disease. The Department of Health and Social Care said authorities are reviewing eligibility for routine meningitis jabs. And Celtic have been crowned champions for a fifth time in a row, denying Hearts a first championship since 1960. An incredible finish to the Scottish Premiership season. Celtic came from behind to win the game 3-1 at Parkhead, sparking huge celebrations. Hearts, though, heart goes out to them, no pun intended. They led the league for 250 days, but ended up finishing second. The dramatic triumph capped a sensational return to management for 74-year-old interim manager Martin O'Neill in the centre of your picture there. His fourth title with Celtic, 22 years since he won his previous one. It all kicked off huge celebrations in Glasgow, and different celebrations will be taking place at Wembley and in Manchester right now. Man City have just beaten Chelsea 1-0 to win the FA Cup. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more a little later.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We are Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It is fast approaching 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. Now, coming up in this hour, Unite the Kingdom and pro-Palestine protests have taken place simultaneously across London today. We'll be bringing you the latest reports from those. Difficult conversations. Joining me, veteran human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell, discussing why he attended the pro-Palestine march in London today. You won't want to miss that. And in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, would Andy Burnham have a mandate to govern? Mr Burnham may have a route back into the Parliament, but did anyone actually vote for him and his left-wing agenda at the election 2 years ago? So I'm asking you, does he actually have a mandate to govern? All of that is on the way. Your thoughts, your comments, gbnews.com/your say. So tens of thousands are marching in the capital today. Now, the Met says today could be one of its busiest operations in years, with facial recognition cameras, drones and mounted officers all deployed across the city. GB News' reporter Doogie Beattie has been at the Unite the Kingdom rally in central London.
Nana, what an atmosphere here in the centre of London, right outside the seat of power. The real question is, did those inside realise what these people were saying? Did they hear it? And there's been people from right across the United Kingdom here today, and indeed from the Republic of Ireland, the Isle of Man represented here as well. But, you know, what was the flavour of the day? How many numbers were here? Joining me now is someone that will be well known to GB News viewers. Alex, how did you find today?
Yeah, massive. Huge protest here, Doogie. A really positive atmosphere, actually, as well. Like, really positive. And for all that discussion of far-right thuggery and racism, haven't seen a single example of it since I've been here. People from all different backgrounds, black, white, Asian, people from different countries coming here to support the United the Kingdom rally. So a really positive atmosphere.
And of course, there will be some discussion around the numbers here. I'm thinking upwards of 400,000. Would you agree?
I would certainly agree with that. I know other broadcasters are, what I would say, falsely reporting 50,000 people. Let me tell you, Doogie, and you'll know because you've gone to a lot of protests, this is not 50,000 people here. This is quadruple that number. I think you're pushing 500,000, possibly even more. It's hard to say because there's so many people scattered all over the place now, but definitely not 50,000. That is a massive underrepresentation of what's going on here.
And do you think the message actually got across?
I think the message has got across, but there's different messages from different people here today. And you speak to them and you find out that not everyone's here for the same reason. But most people, there is one common theme. They're all here because they feel something's going wrong in the country and that something needs to be fixed, Doogie. And that is the consensus. Whether you're here for the speakers, whether you're here for the flags, whether you're here just to protest what's going on, there is a feeling something is not working in Britain, and that's what's brought so many people out here.
Well, Alex, thanks very much. And there you have it. Something's going wrong in Britain. Well, we all didn't know to come to London just for that. We could see that for ourselves. But Unite the Kingdom has been going on. It has been a marvellous event, and we'll see what sort of political pressure that puts on.
Well, thanks for that, Doogie and Alex. Alex, of course, will be doing his show later on this evening at 9. You'll get all of his updates there. But earlier today, I went down to the Unite the Kingdom rally to see for myself if they were all far right. Well, here's what I found.
How do you feel about this protest being referenced as far right?
Well, I would encourage people to come down and see and meet people, and you'll find out that it's not far right. Yeah.
Just come down to, support the march. Not for any reason to cause any trouble.
What do you make of what's happening to our country? Do you think people are losing faith?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Losing faith in our political leaders. They have no integrity, they're not honest, and they're a bunch of charlatans. If you have a manifesto, do what you say in your manifesto. Don't bring in things that are close to your heart, like digital ID, open borders, mass uncontrolled immigration.
Right, so there you have it. I mean, that's what I found, and I had a lovely time, and people were quite incredible to me. Right, well, joining me now is founder GPS Grassroots Network and Victims of Anti-Semitism, Jeremy Wutcliffe. Jeremy, let's very quickly, I just want to ask your thoughts on the Unite the Kingdom rally and how you feel about that.
Hi, Nana. Thank you for having me on the programme. My initial thoughts are, wow, what a wonderful country we live in. How wonderful that both these demos were able to happen simultaneously. I mean, yes, there were obvious dangers, but the police have handled this seemingly very, very well indeed. The freedom of expression is clear to all, and aren't we so lucky? Now, on the Unite the Kingdom, clearly, and I don't want to repeat what everybody else has been saying for the last several hours, but yes, clearly not a bunch of thugs, clearly not a bunch of Nazi far-right loonies, clearly sensible British people who are very rightly concerned for our nation. And as was said just before, of all natures and colours, and Jewish and Chinese and Asian and black, white, everybody together. Wonderful. But on the other hand, we do have to look at the so-called Nakba Day event, which was clearly a very different mood, clearly based on many misunderstandings and lies, and really the spearhead of danger to our nation.
You see, that's the thing, isn't it? And they put the facial recognition cameras at the Unite the Kingdom rally and did not bother with the other rally. And I find that a lot of people call that two-tier. What do you make of that?
I make of it as, look, it's up to the police. I more or less trust them. But we have a real challenge in this country, don't we? We have a situation where British people who are Jewish are 8 times more likely to be racially attacked than the next demographic. That is not a good situation, and the marches like the pro-Palestinian march are exacerbating a racist situation in this country that is unsustainable, unpoliceable, and it is rife across all of society, and it's a clear and present danger to the whole of the UK.
Which is ironic, because the left would say that about the Unite the Kingdom rally, and it does seem a bit of a... well, it seems the very opposite is true.
Yeah, look, it's also true to say that I just popped over, dare I say, to the BBC, where they had a little vox pop and they chose to show people who were blaming the right, so-called, for the divisions in society. No, this is not what's happening. The Prime Minister himself called it out. It's Islamist extremism. The reason why I look over here is I've actually got a newspaper headline from the Jewish News. Under pressure, Starmer urges silent majority to stand with Britain's Jews against Islamist extremism. Why do I show you that? Because the source of the problem in the UK and North Africa and great swathes of Europe is this Islamic extremism. There is a caliphatism that is trying to work its way across the West, and this is a danger to us all. So it is incumbent on the great British public, the silent majority, to galvanize and no longer be silent, but to speak up, like this Rally Unite the Kingdom, which, read it, it's on the tin, the title, Unite the Kingdom. We must all come together, and that includes Muslim friends. Those who are not extremists are more than welcome. But sharing British values, freedom of speech, gay rights. You've got Peter Tatchell on. How he's going to explain away the situation in so-called Palestine for gay rights, or shall we say, also women's rights and libertarian rights. That's a tricky one to square up.
I'm going to ask him, actually. I'll ask him because he's on very shortly, and I think that's a very good question. But, you said there's a caliphate of extremism. Some people might say that's a conspiracy theory, if you see what I'm saying, because there'll be those on the left that say, come on.
Yeah, there is a conspiracy, but it doesn't mean it's wrong, because we've seen it across great swathes of Africa and Asia, and it's underway. And we should all be rightly concerned about the extremism on left and right. But the right wing is not trying to, as if, take over and Nazify this country. But, I like a pint of beer down the pub. I like to talk to my gay friends. I like to be British because I'm British, and Britain's citizens who are Jewish should not have to hide their Jewishness because of this racism.
Oh, well, I hear you. Thank you so much. I think a lot of people will be saying, here, Jeremy, we're with you. That's Jeremy Whitcliffe. He is a founder for GPS Grassroots Network and Victims of Anti-Semitism. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Really good to talk to you. Well, let's quickly get back to the news of former Health Secretary Wes Streeting, who announced that he will contest any Labour leadership contest against the Prime Minister.
We need a proper contest with the best candidates on the field, and I'll be standing.
And just one day after Andy Burnham gets a green light to run for the selection in Makerfield, the by-election, well, joining me now is the former senior correspondent for the Sunday Times, Andrew Gilligan. Andrew, so with breaking news, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that Wes Streeting, although he took his time, he kind of seemed a bit weak that he wasn't going to, or was he, or wasn't he? He didn't put it in his letter, but now he's made his position clear. I think he's probably politically kind of engineered it at the time when the Unite the Kingdom rally is on, and also the beginning of the FA Cup final, which I don't know whether he thought about that one, but still, I don't know whether he did that because he knew most people wouldn't be listening or would, I'm not sure. But what do you make of this?
So I think he didn't announce on Thursday because he didn't have the 81 names who, under the rules, have to go publicly over the top to back him. Some of those 81, he says, oh, I have got 81, but some of them are ministers in Starmer's government, so they couldn't go public. He will now be saying, well, because we all now expect a leadership contest, some of those ministers will be able to go public. That's probably the plan. I actually think having a contest is a good idea. I think at the moment the mood seems to be for a kind of coronation for Andy Burnham if he can win that by-election, of course, in Makerfield. And if he gets that, the mood is not to have a leadership contest with all slagging each other off on TV for 3 months while the country goes ungoverned. Now, I can see the appeal of that for the Labour Party, but I think it might be better for them in the long run to have a contest, because I think Rishi Sunak came out yesterday, former Tory PM, of course. He was elected leader of the Conservative Party effectively without a contest after Liz Truss imploded. And he said it would have been a lot better if he'd been able to be tested and people had affirmatively voted for.
But with him, we'd already had a contest, and he didn't win it. So, but then they didn't like the outcome, so then they changed it. So we couldn't have another contest. I mean, that would have just been a contest after a contest. It'd almost be like trying to rerun Brexit because you didn't get the answer that you wanted, and I'm not so sure people would have been up for that.
Obviously, Liz Truss imploded. She did it to herself.
No, well, that's not fair because there was a bit of a run on the markets beforehand. So she wasn't. She imploded. She didn't want to do it anymore. But what happened where she was blamed for something that actually part of it really wasn't her fault. Like if she hadn't been there and it'd been somebody else, a similar thing would have happened. Sorry.
I don't agree with that. I think Liz Truss did blow up the markets by a grossly irresponsible mini-budget.
Well, she didn't help, let me be honest. She didn't help at all. Well, listen, I could talk to you for a lot longer than that, but sadly I do have to go. Really good to talk to you. Thank you very much, Andrew Gilligan. We'll have a discussion again about who crashed the market. Was it Liz Truss or was it somebody else? But right now it's definitely Rachel Reeves anyway. I think we can agree on that. Thank you, Andrew. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Next, difficult conversations. I'll be speaking with veteran human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell about why he has attended today's pro-Palestine rally.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to GB News. If you just tuned in, where have you been? Oh, all right, at the United Kingdom rally. Hey, that's fair enough. What, the Nakba one? What? Anyway, don't worry. We're talking to Peter Tatchell in just a moment, because it's difficult conversations. A total of 31 arrests have been made at the United Kingdom and Nakba Day protests in London today, with the Metropolitan Police posting on X, whilst this may seem high, to this point, both protests have proceeded largely without significant incident. And my guest this evening was at a pro-Palestine Nakba rally earlier, human rights campaigner and activist Peter Tatchell. So, Peter, you were at this rally, Nakba Day, so some people might be thinking, what is it?
Nakba is the Arabic word which means catastrophe. It refers to the fact that about 750,000 Palestinians were either expelled or fled when their land was attacked by Jewish terrorists such as the Stern Gang in 1948 and the years preceding. So it's to mourn that fact that all these Palestinian people were forced out of their homes and off their land, which is a terrible thing.
Well, OK, but that's great and everything, but you are aware of the human rights, the LGBTQ sort of rights in Palestine and how people who are LGBTQ are treated. You know, it's not seen as a favourable thing in Palestine. So it seems a bit odd, some people might say, that you would be at such a rally.
Well, see, I support human rights for others, even if they don't support my human rights.
But
because human rights are for everyone. And when it comes to Palestine, I've done huge work, mostly behind the scenes, challenging both the ill treatment of LGBT plus people and women, and sometimes Christians, in Palestine territories. So don't accuse me of not caring about that and not acting. I have.
No, nobody's saying that to you, but I'm just saying that homosexuality in Palestine is considered a taboo subject. It's not something that would be seen as a positive thing, and there's plenty of things that have documented that. So I get it that you're promoting human rights, but within an environment that doesn't really approve of you as an individual. So to me, that seems like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. Well, the way to change that, and not just for LGBT plus Palestinians, but for women in Palestine as well, is to challenge it, to go on those marches, to make the point that we call out Hamas as an anti-Semitic, misogynistic, homophobic organisation, a terror group, a dictatorship, which oppresses Palestinian people. And I can tell you, today and in previous marches, I've had lots of people, Palestinian people, say, yes, homophobia is wrong, we support equal rights for LGBT plus people and for women. And they are angry too that Hamas in particular is down on the rights of women and LGBTs. Now, of course, there is still a big problem there. But the way to change that, I think, is to show solidarity, to call those people out, to show you can call us this, that and the other, you can despise us, but we will support you. And in the end, that shames them. And that shame help to change attitudes in the end. It's not an easy task, I agree, and I've been doing this for a long time, but I think I've seen many Palestinian people change their views on women's rights and LGBT plus rights because people like me have challenged them.
And I say a lot of people go on these marches not really understanding what they're doing. And I just wondered how much you know about sort of Israel and Palestine. It seems a bit... because people always say, oh, you know... So which came first? Was it Israel or Palestine?
Well, there was a British mandate of Palestine. That came first. Israel was created by destroying the British mandate over Palestine. So originally, Palestine was there before the creation of the State of Israel, where largely Jews and Arabs coexisted peacefully. But then, when Jewish people came there to create their own state, that's when the problem started. And that mass dispossession of Palestinian people is the root cause of the problem. But there is a solution, a two-state solution where Jews and Arabs can live together in peace. And my placard today was calling for the release of Marwan Barghouti, the most popular, revered Palestinian leader. He supports a two-state solution. He is condemning, and for decades condemned, attacks on Israeli civilians. He's been falsely accused of terrorism by international jurists. International jurists say that his trial was a sham. There's no evidence that he ever directed terrorism whatsoever. It was all guilt by association. But even some of Israel's most senior military and intelligence chiefs say that Marwan Barghouti should be released because they know whatever people accused him of doing in the past. He is now absolutely committed to a two-state solution with democracy and human rights for Jews and Arabs.
OK. No, but can I just say, to your answer to which one came first, this is from Wikipedia, so it could be totally wrong, but I tried to do as many sources. OK, so it says, actually, Israel predates Palestine by more than 1,000 years. OK. It says that the land then became home primarily to an Arab population, again, more than a millennium, so both Jews and Arabs thus have a legitimate claim to the land. But to the answer to that question, most of the sources I've looked at says Israel does predate Palestine. That's just... See, because I often think when people go on these marches, a lot of them don't know what they're talking about, they don't know what they're saying, and then when asked questions about it, the information, it doesn't quite stack up. Now, I wonder...
But you're right. Israeli tribes, Jewish tribes were there for millennia.
Yes, so they predate Palestine.
Absolutely.
Just to be clear,
but Arab tribes also lived in the same area.
Yeah, that's true.
They coexisted.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the first state that was ever created was, or quasi-state, was the British Mandate of Palestine. That was the first state.
And to your talk about the two-state solution, that's great if both sides agree with that. But if one side doesn't want a two-state solution, so, for example, if we bring ourselves to Hamas, who want to, as we know, and I know you don't support any of what they do, is to obliterate the state of Israel, kill all the Jewish people, then, you see, that doesn't work if the people who you want to work with don't want to work with you. And I think that's a problem. And, again, I find a lot of people on these marches are calling for something that actually the people who they're calling for within that march wouldn't support.
But the surveys show that most Palestinian people, ordinary Palestinians and ordinary Jews in Israel, most of them do support a two-state solution. It's some of the leaders of the problem, and right now Hamas's support, because of the devastation its October the 7th terrorist attack caused, Hamas's support has gone way down. The most recent poll shows that no more than about 6% of people in Palestine would now vote for Hamas. And there's been huge mass marches against Hamas by Palestinians who want them out.
All right, and I just want to ask you, because I know you didn't go to the Unite the Kingdom rally, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are on it.
Well, you know, I defend everyone's right to protest. Even if I disagree with you, I will stand up and say, you have a right to protest. So I'm perfectly fine. I don't agree with the Unite the Kingdom rally and many of the people and the ideas they're expressing.
What, to unite the kingdom? So have everybody, you know, promoting the fact of being British and supporting your country and being patriotic. Well, you don't support that? Because I was there.
That's not the issue for me.
What's the issue?
The issue is, it's one of its prime movers is Tommy Robinson, who has convictions for assault, fraud and harassment. He is not someone that I think anybody should be following.
But people aren't following that, are they? And also those are the past. We can all, if we were to take people...
Well, he is the prime mover.
Yeah, but if we were to take people on everything they did in the past, then nobody would move on, including the whole Palestine thing and the Jewish thing. Nobody would go anywhere. Yeah. And, you know, some people who should be in prison for some of the things they've done are not in prison. So I don't really subscribe to that, because people aren't subscribing. Even if you subscribe to the fact that you believe that Tommy Robinson is whatever, they're here to, you know, they want safer, they want the borders to be looked at. They want control of the borders. They want, you know what I mean? I was there.
Yeah.
There was
I'm against illegal immigration.
Right.
But the solution a lot of those people propose won't work. The solution is Britain has to, with the agreement of France, set up asylum processing centres in France, in Calais and other cities, port cities, where people who are genuine refugees can apply for asylum. And if they're found to be genuine, they can be given a legal route to come here. But everyone else should be blocked, and if they come, they get sent back. That's the solution. So it's a really easy solution.
So you're saying that they can come across the channel in the dinghy?
No, I'm saying that to stop the small boats, we set up the asylum assessment centres in France, where people can be assessed whether they have a genuine claim or not. The genuine ones can then legally come in on an aircraft or on the Eurostar, but the others, they have to be blocked. And if they try to come across illegally, they get sent straight back.
God, that's the only sensible thing you've said, Peter. I'm teasing you. At last. Peter Tatchell, it's been a pleasure as ever. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is human rights campaigner and activist Peter Tatchell. Right, 33 minutes after 5 o'clock. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. Next, it's time for the Great British Debate. And I'm asking, would Andy Burnham have a mandate to govern? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell, and Reform UK's 2028 mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham. But before all of that, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Nana. Good afternoon. 24 almost 25 minutes to 6. Our headlines. Wes Streeting has confirmed he will stand in any Labour leadership contest to replace Sir Keir Starmer. In his first speech since resigning from the Cabinet, the former Health Secretary said he'll wait to see if Andy Burnham wins the Makerfield by-election before launching a challenge to the Prime Minister.
We need a proper contest with the best candidates on the field, and I'll be standing.
The Met Police says 31 people have been arrested for a variety of offences at competing protests in London. A Unite the Kingdom march that was organised by the campaigner Tommy Robinson. The other one, an annual pro-Palestinian demonstration to mark Nakba Day. Some 4,000 police officers were deployed to manage the gatherings. Meanwhile, hundreds of pro-Palestinian demonstrators have been marching in Austria to protest against Israel's inclusion in the final of the Eurovision Song Contest. The public broadcasters of 5 countries, Spain, the Netherlands, Ireland, Iceland and Slovenia, have boycotted this year's event. And Celtic have been crowned champions in Scotland for a 5th time in a row. They denied Hearts a first title since 1960. Celtic came from behind to win 3-1, sparking huge celebrations at Parkhead. And I can tell you that Manchester City have beaten Chelsea 1-0 to win the FA Cup final at Wembley. You're up to date with the headlines. More coming up at 6.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. And we do have some cloud and rain pushing across the country at the moment, and we'll have some blustery showers following from the west. The east has had some sunshine today, but this weather front is continuing to push its way eastwards, introducing that cloud and outbreaks of patchy rain, which there could be some heavier bursts later on. As we see for the evening time, the rain across parts of Scotland, central and eastern parts of England, and behind it, showers following, blustery across Northern Ireland as we end the day and go into the early hours. 1 or 2 rumbles of thunder also possible. Some clearer spells developing across England and Wales, 1 or 2 mist and fog patches, but temperatures overall a little higher than recent nights with more cloud around and a westerly breeze. So cloudy start across Scotland on Sunday morning. Outbreaks of rain across central and northern areas, perhaps even a touch of snow over the Scottish mountains. But with milder air moving in, this is likely to turn back to rain quite quickly. Showers from the word go across Northern Ireland, a bright start across northern England, temperatures around 7 or 8 degrees, so a little higher than recent mornings, and a bright start across much of England and Wales as well, though there are some showers around too. Any mist and fog patches will quickly clear. And then a bright day for England and Wales on Sunday, some scattered showers developing, most frequent in the west, but some really heavy showers developing across Northern Ireland, western Scotland as we move through the day. Some of these moving into western parts of England and Wales later as well. Best of the sunshine across central and eastern areas, and here temperatures warmer, reaching 16 or 17 Celsius. The wind starting to change direction to a southwesterly, introducing some warmer weather and a sign of things to come. Blustery showers to end the day on a Sunday across the whole of the UK, the odd rumble of thunder, some hail in there too. And then moving forward, temperatures rising, still the risk of some showers and longer spells of rain initially.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Well, good afternoon if you just tuned in. Where have you been? You know we start at 3. No, there's no excuse. The football's finished. Huh? Oh, Nakba rally. What? Why? Oh, United the Kingdom, fair enough, I get it. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, would Andy Burnham have a mandate to govern? Now, Andy's path to number 10 may be opening up, although it might not be because he's got to win a by-election. Critics say that if he did get there is no mandate to govern, really, does he? I mean, he's the Mayor for Greater Manchester. He's backed policies that clash with the Labour's election pledges, from raising the top rate of income tax to loosening fiscal rules and eventually taking Britain back into the EU. I mean, come on. Who asked for that? So for Andy Burnham, I mean, I thought that because he seems to have the charisma, although what he wore in that article is unforgivable. The shorts, the trainers, nothing matched, and the exposure, the exposing of leg was, I think, for me. Anyway, I digress. But listen, so if he replaces Keir Starmer without facing the country, would voters be owed a general election? So I'm asking, would Andy Burnham have a mandate to govern? Well, joining me now is leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell, and Reform UK's 2028 mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham. All right, let's start with you, Ed Gemmell.
Does he have a mandate? He's clearly not going to have won in a general election, which would be an absolute clear mandate, obviously. But we've got a system of government which somewhat resembles the corporate system we have with PLCs and our companies. So essentially, we, the shareholders, that's all the voters, we elect a board, that's all the MPs in Parliament. Those MPs are aligned in the way boards of directors can be around certain policies and things like that. And then if the chief executive or the chairman needs replacing, they make the decision, they get rid of them, and they put somebody else in, often from their own number. We, as the voters, then, at the point where it comes back round, we have our opportunity to remove them again later on. So, although it's clearly not a general election, which would be a much bigger mandate, I think our system works like that, and I think that's how we all accept it when we vote.
Layla Cunningham.
Yeah, I don't think that you can move from being mayor of Manchester and then become PM and just assume that we're going to accept you as Prime Minister. It's such an entitled way of looking at things, and I think we've just had enough of playing musical chairs with leaders as if there's an entitlement to power. I'm sorry, if he's going to come in on a completely different programme, although to be fair, Keir Starmer is not really following what was in his manifesto, is doing things that were not in it. So, but does he have a mandate? But I mean, leadership is not just passed around, between some small elite political class. It has to be earned by the voter, and the Prime Minister is someone that leads this country, and I don't think you have a mandate if you're not elected.
But I think we've got to be practical. I mean, that's why I use the sort of corporate world to come up with practicality, is if you've got a leader who's not performing, your company's doing badly, your country's doing badly, they're clearly the wrong person in the wrong job, and that becomes evident after a period of time, then it's up to the board of directors to get rid of them. And our board of directors is the MPs in Parliament.
The difference is that the board of directors are there to get a good outcome for the country. For the company, whereas here, the board of directors, the MPs, are not looking for what's good for the country, they're looking for what's good for their party. And the shareholders, us, are suffering massively. And listen, he called for a general election before when the Conservatives changed leaders. So I would expect him to call one. Obviously he's coming in as the honest man of his word. Well, let's see if he is a man of his word and he does call a general election. If he wins, of course, which could be all moot because, we had many out. We just had an election, and they got, I guess I could say, annihilated in that area.
I think just picking up on one thing you were talking about people coming in, supporting their party rather than the country. It's something I detest about politics, is that people get this partisan party way of doing things. They follow the line, and they're not always doing the best thing, but I do believe in the best in most people, and I think most of those MPs going into Parliament wanted to do the best for their constituents and for the country. And so what I would like to see, and now we've got the potential leadership battle, that those 400 or so Labour MPs do what's right for the country. We've clearly got the wrong leader at the moment. He knows it, we know it, they know it.
But does he know it? He's clinging on. If he knew it, he would maybe step aside and resign and get rid of all of this nonsense. But we don't have that, do we? In fact, he is likely to be part of the race.
I think he is now delusional in the sense that he still thinks he can do it.
He doesn't know.
I think he knows in his heart that he's the wrong person. He's not doing a good job, but he's hanging on to it like some of these people do when they're hanging on to money or power.
You know what bothers me about Burnham is that he feels that the leadership is his by right. It's not something to be earned. You know, and there's this sense like, you know, we're going to move mountains just to get me in this leadership role. People actually want service from their MPs and prime, not careerism, you know. And that's what I feel you're getting. Number one, he's the mayor of a fantastic city, and he's willing to give that up. It just stinks.
And I do agree with you. I can't stand political careerism. So those who go into politics, join the party at 15, as Wes Streeting and Annie Burnham did, file their way through universities and everything else, and then literally end up political assistants, and all they do is politics. I'd much prefer to see people who have other backgrounds that are moving up there. And in many cases, you know, business people,
like an industry.
Professional people, those who've been in the army, whatever it is, I'd like to see them rising up rather than the politicos who've been doing it all their lives.
Yeah, it's almost like an industry politics, as opposed to a service.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, what has Wes Streeting done? I don't think I think none of them have had.
I think he's always been in politics, as far as I can see.
Before he was in politics, he did want Jan Moir, who's a writer for the Daily Mail. I think he wanted to be run over by a train. I think that's one thing he said. I think he later on obviously retracted that.
The tolerant left.
I mean, I think the one thing I would say though about Andy Burnham now is, I mean, and I'm not a fan of Andy Burnham's particularly, best of a bad bunch, but he is now going to have to fight that election and win it. There's a mandate of some sort there, and then fight another election
what if he doesn't
to win the leadership.
Then
we
what?
might not. I mean, you know, that's it.
He'll go back to being the mayor of Greater Manchester.
And will they accept him?
Won't win it,
will they
we'll
accept
see.
him as second choice?
Well, we shall see. We shall see. Well, it's all hotting up here, isn't it? But if you don't fancy staying here, then why not go off to Europe and check out some of those other destinations? Here's the forecast.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The weather across southern Europe is looking fairly mixed tomorrow. We do have high pressure out in the Atlantic just to the west of Iberia, and that's bringing generally settled conditions across much of Spain and Portugal. Not totally dry though, a few outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the north, and there are some outbreaks of rain further east, particularly around parts of Croatia and Greece, and some of this could be heavy at times. But the fine weather looks to be more dominant as we go into next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
This is the place called Goodreads, who describe themselves as the world's largest site for readers and book recommendations, and they're objecting to the fact, anti-book language they're objecting to. Anti-book language. They don't like the phrase, throw the book at him. It says anti-book.
Anti-book?
Anti-book. And they don't like the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover. They prefer you to say, please do admire book covers which are meticulously designed works of art deserving of appreciation.
These people stupid. Yeah, well, I mean, I think they're just borrowing from the people for the ethical treatment of animals, who every so often come up with the story of, like, don't use anti-animal language, like more than one way to skin a cat. This week, I think they had a story, they wanted a street to not be named Pork Pie Way in Melton Mowbray. They wanted it to be called Vegan Alternative Way or something. It's just a press release to get in the papers.
Is the home of pork pie.
Yeah. Exactly. Who would have Vegan Alternative Way as a street name? But it just gets them in the papers, isn't it? So now we're talking about books. The books aren't offended. Do you know what I mean? Literally, they've got a spine, but most of the people these days don't.
They have got a spine, that's quite true. Yeah.
That's positive book language.
Honestly. All right, let's go. What's your language story, Steve?
Le woke. French GCSE is now being